This is the Vision 79 podcast, where my friend Sander and myself, Mason, discuss recent developments in our business and personal growth. The name Vision 79 comes from our respective racing numbers. Sander's is 40, mine is 39, and we have similar ambition to progress in business and our personal growth. Many successful people have started small, just like us, but very few of them have documented their early years. They often say they wish they had, and given we believe in learning lessons from others, we intend to be the first to document our journey from start to finish. This is simply a documentary of our lives, and as such, we do not monetize these videos, so enjoy the ad-free content. Today, we'll discuss key lessons we've learned so far in our early business career. We'll be discussing the first hard lesson we've ever learned, the most important lesson we've learned so far, what lessons we feel we're learning right now, and much more. Last week, we had to reschedule our podcast because Sander wasn't able to make it, so we've got a slightly longer update for our business and personal lives this week because I think it's almost like a 3-week chunk now.
It's a 2 and change because the
Two and-
MCM was on a Friday. So
Right.
like,
So we've got 3 full weekends in this update. So mine is
yeah.
thick. So expect a lot of business and life updates. We start each episode with a brief update or a long update on where we're at in our business and personal lives. So what do you have for businesses?
So
Oh,
for business
fine.
this week, my greatest news is that I can now go back to semi-normal hours at work starting tomorrow,
Hell yeah.
which is excellent news.
So what is semi-normal compared to what you've been doing?
Semi-normal will be like 40 to 45 instead of like 65 to 75.
Got it.
So that's like huge improvement, and potentially less or nothing on Saturdays, which is amazing.
That'd be fantastic.
Super happy about that. So in terms of business stuff, up until 2 days ago, I essentially had done nothing but maintain afloat.
Okay.
Just because I was working 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. So by the time I got home and in bed, it was like 7 a.m. And then I'd sleep until like, you know, noonish, something like that. And then have a few hours to like tidy stuff up, because it takes me about like an hour and a half a day, just like maintenance wise dealing with stuff.
Right.
So I really didn't have much time to like sit down and like build ads or scale or grow.
Okay.
And so my business updates are from essentially midday Friday until now.
Because you didn't have work.
Right, because I didn't have
4th of
work.
July
It was
week.
4th of July weekend.
God
I was like,
America.
God bless. And I was like, oh my God, it's Friday today and I have the day off. It was amazing. It was great.
Yeah, I saw you at the bar and I was like,
I know.
whoa, dude.
Yeah, well, I was over at the Premier Oaks Theater to see the Formula One movie. I was like, oh, I'll stop at Powell since I haven't been there in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
It's funny because
got a coffee.
people come up to me all the time and they're like, oh yeah, you and your buddy, what's his name? And I was like, Sander. Actually, he has been here more days than this place is like for all the days this place has been open, he's been here for the majority of them. It's just not like the last 4 months, but they just started coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
But this week for business, I finally sat down and I figured out all of my accounting stuff for sole proprietorship, all my sales and use tax for the sole proprietorship side, all of my sales and use tax for the LLC, filed it as an S Corp, got all the forms that I need
And
figured out. Yeah, so I'm filing the LLC as an S Corp with the
Okay.
IRS. Just different tax filing strategy.
We got to do like the monthly meetings or quarterly meetings and stuff like that. Right.
Yeah, I'm a little bit. It's a little bit. I'm still researching that aspect of it.
Yeah.
From what I've gathered, if you're the only person on there, as long as you're taking good notes of like what you're doing, what your expenses are and why, like you should be good.
Okay.
But I'm still researching that a little bit because I remember reading that and then I didn't read it when I researched it last night.
Yeah.
So I'm still taking a little bit of a look at it, but all in all, I figured out my sole proprietorship side of things, got my sales and use tax in compliance so that once my sole proprietorship is approved by the IRS, because I was just running it under my SSN, but now I actually like input into the IRS that I was doing it. So once that's through, I'll be able to pay my sales tax for Florida. I had like 75 different transactions in Florida, all in different counties. So I went through, categorized all of them by their county tax. and filled that all out, figured out how much I owe, where, and whatever. Got that all filed out in Excel sheets.
Cool.
All good. So that was quite a bit last night. And also, operating agreement revamp because of the S Corp filing. Just, basic stuff like that.
So if I recall, there's member managed and multi-member LLCs, and then there's S Corps, and then there's C Corps, right? Those
Yeah.
are like the three different tiers of
Yeah,
and that's
so
what
I'm
partnership-
still a member managed LLC, but I file with the IRS as an S Corp.
right. And so if I recall, the C Corp is the one with like the most restrictions, where it's like you have to have quarterly meetings with the majority of your board, and you have to take notes, and you have to pay dues. You pay tax twice or something like that. But S Corp is like diet C Corp, so there's less of that stuff.
Yeah, it's a little bit more
If I-
open-ended,
I
just
think-
slightly.
I think we have this written out in our document. We
We
have
do.
one of those from back then.
Mm-hmm.
Did you
Yeah.
visit that?
Yeah, I looked
Figure-
at it a little
so-
bit.
and,
And also what most of the stuff I was finding as I was researching was lining up relatively well.
okay.
Got like that quarterly meeting thing, and like the meeting notes. Like it seemed to me like they were more structured when we were looking into it, and then when I was looking at it today, it seemed like it was less structured.
Mhm.
So I just want to go back to that, make sure that I'm checking all the boxes in that respect.
It may have changed too, because I think we looked into it in 2023.
3, yeah.
So that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, it could have changed a little bit. So, but some of what I found interesting was I want to figure out my tax situation for this coming month because I have all my taxes up until today lined up perfect. It's all good.
Business or personal?
Business,
Got it.
and the sole proprietorship. I have both those. The sole proprietorship I haven't paid yet, but I know exactly what I'm paying because I'm waiting for the IRS to essentially say, "Oh yeah, we recognize you as a sole proprietorship. Now pay."
Got it.
Right.
But you're getting your ducks in a row for when that happens.
Yeah, I have all the ducks in a row and I have like the accounts set up and I know exactly what I'm paying.
Yeah.
I just have to click pay when they approve their end of it.
Got it.
But I was doing some like cross-checking with the accounting service
Yeah.
that I use, and the accounting service that I use doesn't the values were slightly different, like per transaction, which was interesting. What?
What?
Oh, nothing.
I'm spacing on it. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I thought you were
I probably am
laughing
paying
about
attention.
something.
No,
No,
I'm,
no.
I'm thinking about something else. I've got
Oh.
15 different tabs. I'm
No,
working on
yeah.
closing them all. I'm sorry. Do
You're
you ever
good.
do that? Do you ever have so much going on in your head? You're like, okay, I need to make a mental reminder to do this later. And then you like, okay, think, and then you take a mental snapshot, and then you're like, okay, awesome. Tab closed. Next tab. I'm doing that while listening to you, so I'm still tracking.
I got you. I do that. But with the taxes, I was cross-referencing it to the tax program that I currently use.
Yeah.
Which is run by Avalera, I think is the company. It's like through my accounting.
Okay.
And I was referencing their tax breakdown versus what I did by county, like
Yourself.
undisputable, like this is it.
Right.
And their taxes were a little bit different than mine. Just like off like, 10 cents, 15 cents, whatever, like here and there. And so that confused me. And then I started realizing while I was filling out the sales and use tax that the sales and use tax requires me to input what amount. So I have like a total amount, let's say 300. And then it asked me, okay, out of the 300 that is taxable, how much is taxed at a different rate from the county that you are a resident in? For example, we're a resident in Brevard County.
Yeah.
If I go over to Orange County, the newest taxes are at 6.5%, not 7%.
Got it.
And so if I made $150 of those 300 in sales in Orange County, then I would have to say on that sales and use tax sheet, $150 of the total 300 is taxed at a different rate than the county that I live in.
Right.
And then on top of that, I would have to say how much of the 300 is taxed as a county tax, like is taxed at a county level. So let's say the 300, because the state tax is 6%, but then in Brevard County, we have an additional 1%, which makes it 7%.
Right.
In Orange County, you have an additional 0.5%, which makes it, 6.5%.
Yeah.
So I have to go through and say, okay, well, out of all this stuff, out of all my different transactions, there's a bunch that are at like 1%, some at 1.5% extra, some at 0.5, and some at 0% extra. And so I have to say that the 0.5, the 0.5, 1, or 1.5, I have to actually calculate those smaller totals out of the total sales and use tax I'm paying and put that in a box on the sales and use tax.
Right.
The accounting software that I'm using has neither that smaller section for me to fill out, nor does it seem to accurately calculate the total tax that I owe. And it's not off by much, but it's off by a little bit. And so I'm curious as to why.
Well, we had this problem with TurboTax when we were filing for Kahuna
Yeah.
because I did it on paper and got a number, and then we did it with TurboTax. They gave us a different number and wanted us to pay like $600. I
Yeah.
was like, fuck that. And so I went
And
through and I double checked everything, and they did one thing differently than me that I had to go back and correct, but still their number wasn't the same as mine. So I don't think
it
that
was just odd.
yeah.
And so that's something I'm still looking into, but I'm glad that I at least have a ducks in a row, given I'm waiting on the IRS for just one small thing.
Right.
And I also, I have the form to mail for the S Corp filing to the IRS, but it's already filled out and like in the mailer.
Yeah.
So that should be all good, cut and dry. Additionally, on Friday, I started running a promotional, well, actually Saturday, technically it launched because I couldn't get it out in time, but I launched a promotional campaign for the July 4th weekend.
Cool.
And so I just took my winning ad and I did 4 different hooks on it, just super text hooks. Some a little bit more like flashy than others, just super simple. Threw it up there with 2 different variants of ad copy that were July 4th Independence Day themed, and then some like headline catches with a 10% promo code.
Got it.
I just threw that up there. Yesterday it ran terribly. It didn't do well at all, but nothing really did well yesterday. Yesterday was just kind of a dead day. Also, July 4th was kind of just a dud day.
Huh.
And I assume because probably most people are with their family and not on their phones scrolling through Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm starting to learn 2 things from this experience. One is that I got to get the promotional stuff out before the actual holiday, which is what I want to do. I just didn't have the bandwidth to. And then number 2, it's also not just important because of like general sales, but also to allow that promotional campaign to optimize by the time the holidays coming around so that it really knows how to work through the target audience.
Right.
Because what I noticed in running the promotional campaign was that my cost to reach 1,000 customers was much, much higher. And the reason for that is
It's not optimized.
yeah, A, it's
Right.
not optimized, but B, it's actually working from a much smaller target audience because the way that you set up the promotional campaign is you have in your promotional campaign, you have a broad ad set, a warm 60 ad set, and a hot 90 ad set. And what those are is broad is essentially like your general campaign,
Right.
running the same broad audience strategy, but it's running your promotional ads that you make. So I had 4. And then your warm 60 is essentially in the last 60 days, who has engaged with your content
Right.
on Facebook and Instagram. That's warm 60. And then you run your same 4 ads on that. And then you have your hot 90, which is in the past 90 days, who has added something to cart, initiated the checkout, essentially like showing more interest.
Right.
And so you set that up with your 4 ads too. The problem is that because I'm only running at, 150 a day, 200 a day total, even over the past 90 days, I don't have like thousands of people for that, audience or for that ad set to pick from,
Yeah.
right? It's only got a select number of people who have either engaged with the content or gone to the website and added something to cart. And so it takes a lot more money for it to reach those people because it's
Right.
a much smaller set and it has to reach them like when they're online or when they're active, right? And so what I realized from that is A, with these promotional campaigns, don't throw a shit ton of money at them when you're smaller because there's only so much audience that it's working from. That's the first thing. My second thing, start it earlier. A, so it can optimize. B, so you can take advantage of the purchasing power of, or customer purchases before the holiday day, because on the holiday day or right around it, it might be a little bit slower because people aren't really on their phones scrolling like
Yeah.
when they're spending time with family.
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't have like close family. You gonna sneeze? Here it comes. Bless you.
Damn.
So I didn't spend time with family on 4th of July. I worked
Yeah.
for, I'll tell you in my life update. But I was scrolling through looking for sales because I know that a lot of stuff goes on sale on 4th of July. But notably, Amazon does their Prime Day thing. Do you know about this?
Yeah.
It's like a big Amazon wide sale that they do like one day a year. But this year it's actually 4 days. It's from the 8th to the 11th. And they're going to be running flash sales and lightning sales and discounted prices throughout the website for those 4 days. And so now we know ahead of time, it's what day is it today? The
It's the
6th.
6th.
So in 2 days, everyone's going to start kicking off with that. So people will be online looking for shit to buy, looking for deals and stuff like that. So if you did want to start running stuff, today is kind of last second, but you know what I mean? Like you could even continue using the July 4th stuff if you wanted, because people are still in the spirit.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep the promotional campaign running as long as it brings money. Even if it's after July 4th, like whatever.
Yeah, as long as it's not November, then
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And so yesterday was kind of crap for everything across the board. Today is looking pretty good so far. I'm hoping it sticks. Looking like things are starting to work a little bit better. So that's part of where my lessons learned come from, is like started earlier so it can optimize. But finally, in addition to that, the old agency refunded me my money
Hell yeah.
after over a month since my initial claim.
Yeah. This was
So-
$1,100.
No, it was just over 600 euros, so it turned out to be like
Insane.
750,
Got
800 bucks.
Cool.
Yeah, so I got that money back, which was awesome. And then I'm also looking into some AI programs to generate ads. I started like I've been seeing funny enough advertisements for them. And so I was like, you know what? Like, I'll give it a shot. I'll see what it can do, because if it can produce stuff that's at least catchy, or stuff that I can use for hooks or stuff like that,
Yeah.
it could help me out on the production side of things. Just to kind of like ease the burden. And it was definitely something I was thinking about, like through like the super intense work period, but like my general bandwidth was just so low that I didn't even have time to implement anything out of like absolute necessity.
Yeah, it was maintenance.
Yeah,
Damage
yeah.
limitation.
So that sucked, but I'm happy to be back on the train and like actually working on stuff now. Footage organizer is still in work, and I have some footage that I actually need to re-download because my computer broke. And so motherboard died in it.
So how does a motherboard die?
Um, it was it's a mix of likely what happened is that one or multiple of the capacitors in the motherboard blew up, and so it no longer can complete one of its circuits, and so it just shuts down.
Got it. Do you think that's what happened to mine in March? Do we have any idea?
Maybe.
I don't know shit about computers.
Usually, I mean, it's not uncommon, especially if the computer's older or if the computer runs hot. And mine were
If I leave it in my car all day
Yeah.
while I'm at work, and then
or
use
if
it
you're
afterward,
like using it while it's hot.
that happens too. Yeah. Mine yesterday the new one was like running really slowly out of nowhere. And so I was fucking with it. And what ultimately got it to run faster was taking it off the charger, like unplugging it from the charger. So that got it to start like loading pages faster. What the fuck is that?
It's probably trying to, like with the camera, it'll overheat if we
You think
charge
it's
it.
hot? Well, it
and use
feel
it.
hot on the keyboard. Maybe it was underneath.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyways,
But
laptop died.
yeah, laptop died. So shout out to Mr. Chips in Melbourne.
Nice.
He hooked me up. He's been there for 33 years. Nice guy.
Cool. Official sponsor of the podcast.
Facts. He got me a new laptop, something good that I like. Just something basic, Dell, with a lot of RAM to just like run Windows and stuff like that. Graphics processor is like, some Intel integrated shit, but it doesn't matter because I'm not playing video games on it anyway, so who cares?
That's the realization I had, is I was like, I don't need an NVIDIA, whatever the fuck, because I'm not playing video games. I'm running Microsoft. Like, as long as I can run it, it doesn't matter. Exactly.
Yeah. So he got me hooked up with that. It was actually cool. We started chatting cars, and he used to have a 914.6.
Oh,
So
cool.
fun little talking point. Yeah. Which is it's the 914 with the 911 flat six.
Yeah,
which is pretty sick. So he was talking about that car. But all in all, additionally, I got some content back for the wheel product. So I'm working through that. And I also have to go through some content stuff because I had some stuff downloaded from content creators on my old laptop, which then died. So I got to go back through and figure out what I'm missing, and then re-download it and actually upload it.
Can you Jedi Cloud from your old computer or no?
At this point, no. What was recoverable was on OneDrive, and the downloads folder wasn't on OneDrive.
Got it.
So, it's not anything super important. Like I don't keep much of anything on the computer that I don't also have in like Google Drive
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a deal. It'll just take me, an hour or so to sift through that. I just haven't done it yet.
I hear you.
But I'm super happy to have the accounting stuff done. That was like I despise accounting so much.
Oh, really?
I hate it.
Oh, man. I love it.
I've like going through like expenses and payment reports and figuring out how to categorize them. I hate it so much.
Interesting.
And so I'm really happy that that's out of the way because it was something that I really didn't want to do because I knew I was going to hate it. I knew it was going to take me a really long time to figure it all out.
Yeah.
And I spent like 10 hours just doing that yesterday.
That's so funny
Thank
because
you.
we both love spreadsheets and optimization and like crunching numbers.
Yeah, I like
So I thought it'd be
optimization and stuff
something
and analysis, but like keeping track of bills doesn't feel the same.
Got it. I
Just
see.
feels shit.
I like it because it's a way for me to find like, oh man, I'm spending money on dumb shit. I should stop.
Yeah, that aspect of it's nice, but I just don't like all the friggin' complexity and the menus and like this and that and
I hear that.
categories, and I'm like,
I hear that.
fucking
Well, and
just
with business expenses, it's different too. That was a pain in the ass with Kahuna.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that that's out of the way. I'm happy that that's sorted out, and I'm happy that I'm back on track to start making more ads, and I got a plan sorted out, and like I feel like I'm actually like back in the seat with dropshipping, whereas like the past 4 weeks I felt like I've barely been able to keep up on the maintenance side just because everything has been so swam.
Yeah.
And work has been really draining. Working in the heat of the VAB, and just moving around big hydraulic hoses and preps and stuff like that. It just beats you up, and that it's a 12 or 13 hour shift plus an hour drive each way.
Yeah.
So there's 14, 15 hours out of your day minus whatever you choose to sleep, and that's whatever you have left to eat and clean
Do
yourself up
laundry.
and do laundry, and like also during this period of time over the last couple of weeks, like my BMW needed work too. So that was like a whole nother like set where I was like, well, shit, like I gotta fix this car.
Boy, do I understand that.
Yeah,
Does Sammy help you with laundry and meal prep and stuff like
she
that?
does. She does. She's done almost everything of that sort over the past weeks, and I've helped out
Yeah.
where I can. But I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
So
That's how I was. Grace left town for like a week to go to New York.
yeah,
That's when all the car shit kicked off. And while she was gone, I was like, oh, cool. I don't have to make my bed every morning. I don't have to. I think I talked about this on a
Mhm.
previous podcast. But when she came back, I breathed a sigh of relief because I was like, thank God. Dude. Like she does the like minimum stuff that I need to do to stay alive, like
Yeah.
eating and cleaning. And I find that if I'm not forced to do it by actually living on my own for an extended period of time, if I do that, then I'll end up doing it. But if it's just for a week, I'll fucking put all of it off. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So she's been super, super helpful with that, which I appreciate. But
Yeah.
that's about all I had for business. It's not a huge update just because of the work schedule, but
Yeah.
happy to be back on it.
Yeah. More of an update than the past few weeks I've been. So move in the
Yeah,
right direction.
all due to the last day, 2
Yeah.
days. So,
Yeah.
just I was like, "Oh my god, I have Friday free. I'm gonna take a little bit of time to breathe and do something fun and go to the movie."
Yeah.
I played on the simulator a little bit. I got
Nice.
that hooked up and running.
Hell yeah.
So that was fun. I did that for like, 45 minutes or something like that. Just had a little bit of fun.
That's wild. I cannot imagine getting in the simulator for less than like 3 hours.
Yeah, I popped on Daytona with the Corvette for July 4th. I was like, I'll do American Muscle today. I just did that. I did, 10, 15 laps or something, played around.
Yeah.
I did another car too. I can't remember. I think I did the C7R or like it was like C7R prototype or something like that. Another American car, but
Got it.
yeah, it was fun. I just did it for a little bit, and but yeah, I'm super, super happy to be back in a position where I can work on the business effectively.
Yeah.
So
I hear you.
that's super exciting.
Awesome.
But that is all I got for business this week. I know you have a
Cool.
lot.
I have a lot for business. I have a lot more for my life update, but we'll start with business. I wrote this sheet last week ahead of when we were meant to schedule, and now reading my update from 2 weeks ago, I'm like, holy shit, this feels like 6 months ago. It feels like so long ago. So, but I'm gonna try my best to recall where I was at when this happened,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
as we're going, because I've been doing a lot. But so in real estate, I have been optimizing and improving my open houses, right? And so my first open house, I didn't prepare at all. The second one, I prepared more. And then from then on, I decided to increase my number of door hangers that I'll leave when I go door knocking by double, and then I doubled it again. And so I believe with the last podcast we left off, I had signed myself up for 2 open houses in one weekend, and I'd be doing both alone because Grace is out of town.
Mm.
So I doubled my door hangers from 12 to 24 to now 48 for the 2 open houses. So basically, I just took the approach with everything of fucking double it all, right? Twice as many posts on social media, twice as many Instagram videos, twice as many door hangers, twice as many open house flyers, twice as many everything, right?
Mm.
One of the open houses is in Titusville. So it's kind of like way out there. It's not close to any like city, but it is close to 95. So not bad. I was able to get signs out to the main road that goes to 95 to try to hook some people. And then the other open house is in a private marina by Dolphins Waterfront on the Barge Canal in Merritt Island.
Mm.
So cool locations. Both of these homes are for sale by the top agent at Blue Marlin. So I was able to talk with him on the phone and get some insight into how he's looking to sell these houses, which was valuable insight. Um, and at this point in time, I had dropped Grace off at the airport when I ran into car trouble, and I'll leave it at there for now until my life update. But the TLDR is on my way to go door knocking for the first open house. So the open house is on Saturday. It's Thursday evening, and I'm going to go do door knocking. The car breaks down, and I don't have a car anymore, so I have to get it towed home. And so my original thought was, well, I can just have the car towed home. I'll ride back in the tow truck, and then I'll get in the Camaro, and I'll drive back out to go door knocking. The problem is, if I do that, I'm getting to the houses at 9 p.m., and I can leave the door hangers on there, but going up to someone's front door at 9 p.m. is kind of a risk.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. I don't want to get shot or stabbed. So I pivoted and I called my mom, who lived 20 minutes away, and I was like, can you come pick me up and take me door knocking? And she was like, yeah. So I just had her park in front of the house that was for sale. And then I walked around and I did my door knocking and I got it done anyways. So thank you, Mom. I appreciate that. So after that door knocking, I went home. The Camaro has had a leak in the heater hose line for a few weeks now. It was leaking at the American Muscle Car Museum podcast recently. And I discovered the leak when I got home. I found where the leak was coming from. And I was like, cool, I can repair this leak because now I don't have Grace's Kia to lean on. So I have to take the Camaro to all my open houses and door knocking this week, right? So that night, I used JB Weld plastic, the plastic edition, to try to patch the leak. And I let it's supposed to set up in an hour. So I let it set up for an hour and then I drove the car and it failed immediately. So I put flex tape on it and that failed immediately. And so now it's 10 p.m. at night. I'm supposed to have gone door knocking for the second open house this evening. And that's not happening because my car is still leaking coolant. And I have to figure out a way to get it to stop leaking coolant because at this rate, I won't make it to Titusville for the open house the next morning. And so I go to AutoZone 15 minutes before they close and I get that high heat, high temp epoxy JB Weld. And I put that on the car, leave it overnight and hope it works. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to make the open house. I got a bunch of gallons of water in my trunk in case it doesn't work. So I wake up in the morning, I go outside. This epoxy looks way better than the other one. So we ball. I filled up the car with all my open house stuff. Now at this point, I've got the speaker, the cooler, toilet paper, a candle, because some vacant open houses don't have toilet paper. That's the last thing we want. All my flyers and sign-in sheet and stuff like that. So I pack all of that into the Camaro. Don't ask me how I fit it all. I can't even remember. And drove up to Titusville, and it held the whole way. So no leaking, things looking good. Grace is still out of town for another week. And I do the open house. It's in Titusville. It's in the middle of nowhere. It was like a 4-hour open house with like no service. So I had to go stand in the driveway to upload my Instagram posts. And this has been happening at the last few open houses because some of them are in the middle of Paul Bay, middle of Titusville, kind of buttfuck nowhere, right? Which is kind of where you'd want to live because it's not super like hustly and bustly, but also I can't upload any fucking videos because I'm not on their Wi-Fi. So I'm making all these posts and stuff, but no one's coming through. And then finally, in the last 5 minutes of the open house, I have a family come through, and it turns out they live down the street at the house at the end of the corner, and they're looking for a place for their son. He's on vacation right now, but when he comes home, they're gonna like go buy a place. And I was like, awesome. Are you interested in this one? And they were like, yeah, we would be willing to do a cash offer under asking. And I was like, dude, hell yeah. Okay. So I got their information. And in the last 5 minutes, I got a success. So that's awesome, right?
Oh, wow.
So I leave the Titusville open house. The car is still holding strong, not leaking. Life is good. Um, and I prepare for my next open house. I wasn't able to do the door knocking for this one because of the reliability issues the night before.
Yeah.
But I still got there on time. I still went out and put all of the signs out on my own, which is way more difficult than running it with two people. Because the way Grace and I operate is we both pull up on time. Because if someone's still living in the unit, you don't want to show up like 30 minutes early, even though that's my
Mhm.
preference. You don't want to rush them out of there. So we show up on time. I can drop off Grace with all the stuff, and then I can go put out signs in a matter of like 20 minutes. So
Yeah.
effectively, the first 20 minutes, there's not as many signs out there. But now doing it all on my own, I'm getting sweaty. I'm having to put all the signs out on my own. The owner actually lived in the unit. I thought it was vacant, but I walked up and I saw his car in the driveway. And he answered the door and I was like, "Hi, I'm here for the open house." And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. We're heading out right now." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And he was like, "Have you put signs out yet?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to put out signs for a house that I don't have anything ready for yet. So I'm going to prep everything and then put the signs out." He was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "All right." So I went out, I crossed the barge canal to put signs out. So I walked like a good half mile to get everything out there. Um, but I got it all set up and I was able to do it all on my own. And we got a first group come through right away. This being in the same parking lot as Dolphins Waterfront, everybody coming through for lunch saw the signs and had an opportunity to stop in. So we got a group right away. They seemed semi-interested, kind of more curious than anything else. They didn't leave their contact info. And then I got another group right before the end that did seem more interested. This lady's friend was visiting from Ohio, and so they're looking at open houses because she's interested in maybe moving down. Her mom lives in the same type of area. And so it was good. It was another good day. I got contact information for them. So the dual open house night or dual open house weekend, I think I could call a success. Um, and then after that one, that was Sunday afternoon going into Sunday evening. I went to the office to finish out my work. I was the only real estate agent in the office on Sunday night. And I've started to notice a pattern. I was talking to an agent last night because she's at a different brokerage. She was like, "What do you think of Blue Marlin?" I was like, "It's good." And she was like, "Do you think, like, are there people in the office all the time?" And I was like, "It's tough for me to tell because I'm not in there for standard working hours. So I'm only at the office after 9 to 5 or before 9 a.m. So I hardly see people there, but when I do stop by during working hours, there's people there, but like usually it's empty because I'm there. It's insane hours. And Sunday night was another like stupid hour, like
Yeah.
midnight. Um, and then I quickly got on my laptop and I locked in my next open house for the following Friday, which was now a week ago
Yeah.
at this point. But I decided to do another one at the Key West style private marina one by Dolphins because Friday afternoon, I want to do an open house from 4 to 8. Everybody's getting off work Friday. They were going to go have beers and get their weekend started at Dolphins. Maybe they'll stop by just for fun. And so I wanted to give that a shot. So since that one has already happened, I guess I can give an update on that one too. Tyler recommended I try open houses on weekday evenings instead of just weekends because some people will stop by on the way home from work, and I thought this would be a great opportunity. So by now, Grace has come home from New York, so we can run it together. And we only got one guest come through. He wasn't super sociable. I think he was an engineer, so he was like kind of like buttoned up. And he refused to give us his contact information, even though I like subtly berated him. I'm working on being less intense with client or customers. But I was like, "Hey man, like, we'd love to reach out. We've got other options. We can show you other things. I just need your email." And like, he was really hesitant. And so he just took our cards and left. Fine, whatever. Um, had to go out and pick up signs in the rain, which wasn't ideal. That was our only guest. Um,
Mm.
so it wasn't as successful as I wanted it to be, but it was raining most of the open house. So I'm wondering if that maybe played a role. So I'd like to try more weekday open houses. Um, Past that, Tyler recommended Grace and I locked in another open house for yesterday, so a week from then. But as I was talking to Tyler about it, he was like, "Why are you doing so many open houses?" And I was like, "We've had this conversation before, dude. Like, it's my number one way to make content and do lead gen right now. So like, let me do it." And he was like, "You should try cold calling." So he gave me this program to try. And so there's two areas that I would like to explore now that I'm kind of getting in a rhythm with open houses, which is number one, cold calling, because this program will find you reliable clients in select areas. So you can pick a neighborhood and it'll say, "Hey, these houses were for sale and didn't sell. You should try calling them and tell them you can do a better job than their last agent." And then the other area is lead nurturing because my CRM that I used I'm not really a fan of. I don't gel with it really well. For some reason, I just don't take to it. I'm not excited to open the thing, and I have difficulty remembering. Um, and so I'm kind of gonna have to improve that once I have a larger number of customers or clients that I'm entertaining,
Mm.
because I know that I'm gonna really easily forget about people if I don't do that right. Um, and so I had started to look into those things when all the car stuff kicked off, but the open house that we did yesterday is my most successful open house that I've done. It's a really nice $540,000 house in Northeast Palm Bay. It's a newer build in a newer gated community. And there were like 3 other open houses the same day, so everyone had their signs out.
Oh, cool.
And I took my signs, they took their signs out to the end of the neighborhood to the main road, and then took our signs out to the end of the neighborhood to the end of the main road out to Babcock and then some. So we had like 8 groups come through, and like 6 of them left their contact information and were interested in like this house or something similar to it for them or someone they know. Um, and so I was like, dude, fuck a CRM. We're going to text all of them today. And so Grace and I reached out to all of them last night. And so far we've had, I think, 3 or 4 text us back, which is a really good rate, because usually you'll message someone, they won't reach back out to you.
Yeah.
So that was really successful. I'm glad that that went well. And then the guy from the Titusville open house 2 weeks ago, I called him and I was like, hey man, have you gotten the chance to show the photos to your son? Do you know what he's going to think of it? And he was like, oh, he's on vacation right now. And I was like, if I find similar properties for you, do you want to have some options that we could show him when he gets back? He was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. So I had Grace find some properties to send to him. Um, and we sent those over to him. And I'm waiting on a response back now. But like the ball is rolling in a couple different directions with these clients, which is pretty cool. And as of yesterday, we got our commercial client who were looking for like a mechanic bay shop style place to sign our buyer broker agreement. So now we officially are
Cool.
representing him as his buying agent, which
Nice.
is sick. Yeah. Unfortunately, the top property that I thought was a perfect fit for him has since gone under contract because it took so long to get that agreement signed. He was out of town.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So bummer, but we'll keep looking. And then lastly, our friends Callie and Zeke are looking for a new apartment. And so Grace and I used my apartment tool to narrow down the options and then go do tours with them. I did a tour with them while Grace was out of town. This is maybe the 3rd or 4th that we've done with them, but they really liked it. And they were running a discount that was $1,000 off your first month if you move in July, and their move-in date is in August. And so they were like, oh, kind of a bummer because this place is like perfect. We want to sign, but it's a bummer that we're missing that deal. And I was like, let's get all the information and let's walk outside. And so we walk outside and I was like, do you like this place? And they were like, yeah, it's perfect. It's got the vinyl floors we like. We can get it on the floor we want. And I was like, okay, cool. Let me go back inside. So I went back in and I was like, hey, dude, do you get paid commission on these leases? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, cool. I want you to get commission. These people are interested in signing if you can get them that $1,000 discount. And he was like, oh, but that only applies to July. And I was like, oh, but if we set their move-in date for August 1st, that's close enough. And he was like, no, I have to talk to my manager about it. And I was like, listen, man, how many units do you have that fit the description that they want that are open in July? And he was like, none of them. The earliest that open is in August. And I was like, August 1st? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, go talk to your manager. Tell him to delay the discount from July 31st at 12 p.m. or 11:59 p.m. to August 1st, 12 a.m. Have it stretch it by 1 minute to get this discount and we can get this deal done. Because they don't offer commission to real estate agents. So I was like, dude, I'm trying to help you get your commission because I don't get anything out of this. So let's make it work. And he was like, I'll see what I can do. And he went back to his manager and he got them the discount.
Oh, nice.
So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm super stoked for them. They're waiting on them to send a lease right now. They have a couple emotional support animals, so I'm going to help them read through the lease and make sure that they're not charging them pet fees or anything like that, and make sure that they lock in the $1,000 discount. But I'm super stoked for them, and they're super excited too.
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. So that's my business update.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Cool. There you go.
yeah, solid update. And all of this is with my fucking 7-page life update.
I know you got a lot of life.
So having gotten all that done with all the rest of the shit that's going on, I'm pretty happy with how that's going. Because I've also been more of like a maintenance style, like keeping my head above water.
Get that.
Yeah. But what's your life update?
Mine's pretty short. I touched on most of it. A lot of work at NASA, new laptop. Got my desktop up and running. I saw the F1 movie, which I like. Definitely dramatized. Americanized for sure, but it was still entertaining.
I've heard good things about it, even from the F1 community.
Yeah, it was cool to see like a lot of like the F1 drivers and team members that from watching F1 like in the movie
Yeah.
being kind of funny. Like that was cool.
Oh, the Rolex scenes in the movie, we were at that race.
The
There's
Rolex scenes.
Yeah, early on, Brad Pitt, I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the trailer. Early on, Brad Pitt raced at the Rolex and he wins the Daytona 24 or something like that. I can't remember.
Oh, like in the first clip of the movie?
Something like that.
I missed like the first 5 minutes of it.
It might have been in the first, but
Yeah.
before all the Formula One stuff kicks off, he's racing at Daytona at nighttime, and there's fireworks going off and stuff like that. It's in the trailer, but he recorded at the Rolex live at the Rolex, and we were at that race. This was a 2023 race, I think.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
fun fact.
Huh. Well, there you go. Another little fun fact. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this. July 4th, I was like, oh my God, I have Friday off. This is amazing. I want a burger.
Mhm.
So I completely wasted an hour trying to find a burger. I was like, I want a fucking real burger. I want a good burger. I don't want a freaking McDonald's burger. So I called around and called around. I couldn't find anything. And then Sammy in like
You
3
couldn't
minutes.
find a burger from somewhere?
I wanted
You
like,
wanted a good one.
I wanted like a good burger that I didn't have to drive an arm and a leg to get.
Got it.
That was open. Like I wanted something like convenient and like genuine. And like Sammy found me a burger in 3 minutes and I couldn't fucking figure it out in an hour. So
Where'd
he
you go?
found me a burger
Oh,
place,
yeah.
Mavericks.
Right.
Right in Satellite Beach, 3 minutes away. Nice place. Cool vibe. I liked it there. But I got my burger on July 4th and I was a happy American camper with my Corvette simulator racing, my burger, and my F1 movie. I was happy. So that was a good day. And I did some business work that day. It was great.
Hell yeah.
And this coming weekend, I'm planning to do the Miata work. I got my timing belt in on Saturday. So, now I'm available to do all the work on that car. I got all the parts for it. I'm waiting for some parts to come in from BMW. And then I can button that car up as well. Still probably looking to sell that car.
Sorry,
so
Miata? BMW.
BMW, yeah. Not the Miata.
Yeah. Well, I think you mentioned doing Miata work, and then
Oh,
I don't think you
yeah, the
clarified
BMW, I'm
BMW.
waiting on some parts, so,
Got it.
fix it up, and I'll probably sell that car after that point. I like it, but, I could use the money more right now, so.
Well, it's not as sentimental car as the 335 was, or 330.
Yeah, it's and it is what it is, if I can button it up and get it to a good home, that'll be good.
Yeah.
So, looking at that car, and I think I figured out the fuel thing. I'm pretty sure it's going to be one of two things, either vacuum line to the pressure regulator, which I have ordered, or it's going to be the actual fuel pump.
So it's stumbling?
Yeah, it has like, it'll go like 50 miles, no problem, and then it'll stumble a little bit, and then like phase in and out. And there's quite a few people online who have had the issue, and the thing about it to me is that it feels like I want to check the connector on the fuel pump first because it feels like a bad connection. Like just sometimes it rattles and like I don't quite get the voltage to the pump.
Right.
But it also has like this when it's starting off from a stop, it'll do like a complete dead spot where it feels like the whole car cuts, and then it will like spring into life. Like I'll be accelerating, it'll feel a little bit dead, and then the car will like completely cut for like half a second, and then just like pop back up, and I got like full power. And so I'm wondering if there's
lights too, or just the
no, just like fuel, like just motor. And so I'm thinking that the fuel pump going from like it's got like some setting in there. I don't know the fuel pumps really well on that car, but I've been reading up on the forums as well, and a lot of people are saying like the sporadic stuff, if it's not a vacuum leak, which I've checked for extensively, if it's not the fuel pressure regulator or the vacuum line to the regulator, it's the fuel pump.
You changed your filter recently?
The filter was changed by the previous owner, which is why I'm not replacing it, and it's a quality filter.
Okay.
And it was replaced in the last like year and a half.
Okay.
So I don't want to spend another $120 to do that. I'd rather just do the vacuum line. And there's a test that you can run to see if the regulator is working.
Yeah.
You unplug it and plug it back in with that vacuum line or with a vacuum hose, and just see how the running of the car changes. Or I can borrow the pressure gauge from Autobahn and actually see fuel pressure change.
Right.
So That I'm gonna do this coming weekend, but that's about it for life.
Cool.
Pretty much went over most of it. But what do you got? I know you got a lot.
I have a lot.
Yeah.
So, as I have mentioned previously, Grace's car has been having issues. A few weeks ago, it started to have like kind of a rattling noise. It didn't quite feel like it was missing, but it felt like the throttle input was not translating to the wheels properly, right? To me, it kind of felt like slippage, like torque converter slippage. But I'm not a big automatic guy, so I don't really know what that feels like. I know what clutch slip feels like because I would drive a manual, but I don't know anything about automatics. And so I noticed that it would happen at steady throttle conditions at low throttle input in lower gears. So like between first and second and third at like low throttle. So specifically coming around this roundabout here, right? You come in, you go right, and then as you go left, I'm steady on the throttle for a second before picking up the throttle coming out of the corner, right? So I stay in throttle a little bit around that corner. That's where it would do it most frequently. And I drive the car in sport mode, and so it was doing it consistently in that area. And Grace was like, "Stop driving it in sport mode because it doesn't happen in like normal mode." And I was like, "Okay." So I changed it to normal mode, right? So I'm driving her to the airport for her trip to New York. And on the way there, she takes me on this really nice road that I love driving. So I'm driving the car a little harder than normal. It's not making this weird rattling noise or anything like that. Um, and everything's fine. We get to a divided highway and there's traffic coming pretty consistently. I don't know what road it is. It's like 520 or 95 or something like that. It's a divided highway that I have to get all the way through, and there's not really many gaps. So I put the car in sport mode, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to accelerate pretty hard because there's just no gaps. I'm just gonna have to go for it. So I go for it, and it does the slipping thing. It starts making the rattling noise way worse. Now it's sounding like it's coming from the engine, not from the transmission. I don't know what the fuck is going on. It's not missing, but later on I looked into it. It sounds like it could have been knock, but a lot of knock. Like more like when you look it up on YouTube, usually like things will do it like a little bit at a time. This was like oops, all knock, just entirely, right? It almost sounded like an exhaust leak. It was that bad. And
Yeah.
so as we're driving, I'm like, what the fuck? And again, the throttle input is not matching the power to the wheels. And so I put it in like normal mode and then I just coast in like at like 60. And I'm not changing the speed because I have to get Grace to the airport. And so we get her to the airport. It kind of settles down. It stops making the bad noise. And afterward, I'm like, I have to check the oil level, right? Because if there's no oil in the car, maybe a bearing seized up or something like that. So I stop at a gas station and I check the oil level and it's low by like a quart and a half. But I run the Camaro like 4 quarts low on oil all the time, and I've never had an issue with it. Um, and so I top it up and I start driving it home, and it's still having the issue, right? So it's like you step on the gas, and then it goes like and doesn't really get to the wheels. And so my solution to that is just be on the gas as little as possible, right? So like use the hills to accelerate, and then like hold it at that position as long as possible. So I'm driving to Titusville to do door knocking, right? And as I'm getting close to Titusville, I'm 10 minutes away from my destination on 528, I think it is, right?
Mhm.
The beeline. And as I'm going up a hill, I'm having to give it more throttle and it's just not doing it. Like the more gas I seem to give it, the less RPMs I seem to be getting back. And I'm like, oh, fuck, this is bad. So I barely crest the hill. And as I get to the top of the hill, the engine dies, right? It just like, and then dies. And I'm like, fuck, this doesn't feel like a transmission thing anymore. Now this feels like an engine thing. And so I coast to a stop and I'm like, fuck it, I'll try to start the car again. Who knows? Like maybe, maybe it'll work. So I try starting the car, absolutely nothing. There's power, so it's not a battery issue, clearly. I get out of the car, I check the oil level's fine. And I'm like, all right, don't know what it is. I'm gonna have to get it towed. So I get the car towed to Kia of Melbourne to get a diagnosis, right? Um, because it's just not running. It's just not going to work. And so like I said earlier, I have my mom come pick me up and then I deal with the Camaro's leaky bullshit. And I'm driving the Camaro for the week that Grace is out of town. And while Grace is out of town, I'm having to run these open houses, go to work every day with the leaky Camaro and figure out what we're going to do about this car situation because it's a 2019 Kia Forte. So it's the 2 point something liter inline four, with cosmetic damage on the rear and a dent in the door, right? So it's not exactly like a shining representation of a high value car, right?
Yeah.
They bought it lightly used in 2020 with like 4,000 miles on it for like $17,000. Nowadays, in good condition, it's maybe worth 10. with ours in not great condition. There's a stain on the seat. There's like a dent in the bumper, whatever, like I said. With 107,000 miles, it's probably worth like 8,000 on a good day, right? Running.
Yeah.
So now not running, it's a big problem. So Kia calls me, and they say, hey, we'll run a diagnosis for you, but it's going to be $200. And I'm like, I don't want to pay $200 for you to tell me that the car doesn't run. So you're going to have to send me like a write-up like I want a written in paper thing, because I know from my coworker that the 2012 to 2016 or 2018 Kias with the 2 whatever liter engines had a problem, because in the factory, when they would drill out the block, they would bore out the pistons or the cylinders. They wouldn't clean them properly, and so there would be tiny metal shavings left in the engine. So there's this huge recall on these engines because people keep having them blow up. And my coworker actually had this happen to her Kia. I think it was a Soul, and Kia paid for the whole thing to fix it. So Kia calls me and they're like, hey, we have your diagnosis ready. And I'm like, okay, what you got? And they're like, well, it needs a new engine. And I'm like, okay, thanks for that. Can you give me anything else? So here's what I paid $238 for with tax. $238.94. Upon inspection, found engine is knocking. Performed a full DRC scan and found code P001100A. Intake camshaft position. Timing over advanced. Engine has an internal failure and is knocking and over advanced timing in the intake. Provided quote for repair. I paid $240 for that shit, right? Just to tell me that it's fucking knocking and not running. No fucking shit, right? And so I talked to the guy. His name's Tiger. And I was like, okay, Tiger, what are we going to do about this? And he was like, well, we sent you the quote for repair. And so you can pay us to have it fixed, and like we can get it fixed for you. And I was like,
Probably like fucking $4,000.
no. I was like, buddy, there's no number you can tell me that I'm going to pay to have this fixed, right? What, like, other engines have had this problem. What's your warranty coverage? And he was like, well, what warranty do you have in the car? So I had to check. Grace, the car originally had like an extended lifetime or an extended warranty or something, but like when Grace bought the car, it only had like 3 years left on the warranty. So we're outside of Grace's warranty on the car right now. And I was like, we're outside of our warranty, but I know people that have had these engine problems before. And he was like, that was on the previous generation of engine. And I was like, was it? Because it sounds like the cutoff is pretty close to when ours was manufactured. And I don't know what factory y'all built this engine in, but 100,000-mile engines don't just blow up out of nowhere, right? I wasn't too low on oil. I wasn't driving the car stupid. I maintained the car. So what's the deal, Jack? And at the time, I'm looking up online, and people are having problems with the main shaft bearings running dry and seizing and causing internal failure, right? And so he's like, hey, man, like I just got off the phone with Kia Corporate and there's nothing we can do for you. So if you want to pay to have the car fixed, we're happy to do it. If you want to trade it in for a new car, we can do that too. And so now I'm thinking, okay, here's the bill for repair. Labor. Oh, so they're quoting me for a new long block and new rear brakes, because apparently the rear brakes are worn down, right? They're not, they're fine. Labor, $3,549. Parts, $4,600. Brakes, $380. Miscellaneous, $100. Total, $8,629.
More than the value of the car.
Plus tax. So more than the value of the car, which is like maybe $8,000 on a good day. And so I tell Tiger to fuck himself, because there's no way in hell I'm paying that. And I'm like, what would you give me for a trade-in? There's no fucking shot I'm trading it in for a new Kia, but I'm not telling him that. And he was like, well, like come on down to the dealership and we can talk about it. And I was like, how about you tell me right now, and then I figure out what I'm going to do with it. And he was like, okay, well, I'll talk to our like appraisal guy and we'll get back to you. And I was like, sounds good. And so I immediately call a salvage company and I'm like, what would you give me for the car? Because I don't want to deal with this shit anymore, right? I just want to cut loose.
Yeah.
And so I get on the phone with Grace and I'm like, hey, I think the determination here is that we just need a new car. We just got to get rid of the Kia. We'll get whatever money we can for it. We'll trade it in and then use that as a down payment on a lease or financing of a new car, right? And she was like, well, I'm bummed because, we have put a lot of money into that car, like 17 grand plus maintenance. And so it sucks to get like next to nothing for it. Cause at this point I'm like, we would be lucky to get $2,000. Like we're not getting much out of this car. And she was like, okay, well, how would this work logistically? And I was like, okay, whatever car we buy next, Grace doesn't have any money. So whatever car we buy, I'm buying. So I need to take ownership of the Kia and then trade it in to put a down payment on whatever new car we get. I think this is about where we left off in the last podcast, but just for like a full story, right? And she was like, well, what are we going to do about like owning equity in the car and splitting it? Because if we're using the money that I put in the Kia as the down payment, whatever. And I was like, how about you get an entire brand new car to drive and we call it even? And she was like, okay, fair point. And so now we're running into the issue of the title for the Kia is a New York state title with Grace and her mom on it.
Yeah.
Not handwritten, it's typed out. So titles are written with two people with either an and or an or. If it's an or, either person can sign the title over.
If it's an and, they both got to be there.
That's right. They have to be there in person.
Yes.
And it's in New York. Conveniently, Grace is in New York at this time. I am home with the title.
Expedite mail the title.
I could expedite mail the title, right? It's Saturday evening. The UPS store is closed. Its mail doesn't run on Sunday, and they leave New York Monday afternoon. So, like, I don't know if it's going to get there in time, right? So it's tight. And so I'm like, okay, here's the deal. I could mail the title up to you and have you both go to the DMV and sign it over to me, whatever. But then we run the risk of it not getting there in time, right? The FedEx store is open for 45 more minutes. So I go to FedEx. They're like, it's going to be $80 to get it there in time. And the earliest I can do is Tuesday morning. And I was like, fuck, why? You can't do it Monday morning? And they were like, no. And I was like, I'm not paying $80 to have it miss my people. Absolutely not. And so then Grace is like, okay, well, when we leave New York, we're driving to, I don't remember the state. You could mail it there at the hotel we're staying at. And I was like, I don't want to mail the title to your car to a hotel. I don't trust that. Let's find a different way to do this. So I did some chat GPTing. You can have a DMV power of attorney form. And if you get it notarized, her mom can sign and say, I give selling power to Grace. So only Grace has to sign the title if you also give this notarized power of attorney. And I'm like, can you go to the bank and get this done? She was like, yes. So they go and they get the power of attorney signed. Awesome. We're good to go. I'm working with Copart Direct to get the car sold. They've offered us $1,300 for the car. Every time I call this company, it's a different Indian person answering the phone. None of them know what they're doing. It's aggravating. They're calling me all the time for $1,300. And I'm like, okay. So I send them the title. I send them the power of attorney. I'm like, let's just get this taken care of. Come pick up the car whenever. And they're like, okay, sounds good. Let's talk next week to come get the car. And I was like, fine. Kia's not charging me to leave in the parking lot. I'm going to figure out what we're going to do with the new car, right? No longer have to worry about trading it in. I'm just going to get $1,300 from them. The title doesn't even have to go to me. Now Grace and her mom can just sell it directly to Copart. I'm like, we'll leave it there, right? So now I'm left with do you have any questions? I've talked a lot. Okay. Do you have any valuable input? What are your thoughts?
No, I mean, I thought about the Kia a little bit this week, and I was like, I bet the bottom end seized on it because I had a friend who used to work at Kia, and all he did every single day, all day, was replace motors.
Really?
Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah, he would do like 1 or 2 motors a day.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's
crank.
That's fast, dude.
He could do a fucking motor in 2.5 hours.
That's insane. And he would only do 2 a day.
Well, he had other maintenance.
Other
calls. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, like, he freaking cranked those things out. I think he got one motor in on an afternoon, and he had it done. He got it in at like 2 p.m. and he had it done before closing at 5 for the customer. The customer sat and waited for their motor swap.
That's actually insane.
Yeah. The guy, he's crazy.
I mean, the
shout out to Andrew.
Yeah, fucking rip it, Andrew. That's awesome. Yeah. The transverse mounted engines aren't easy to get out either because they're all sideways, right? That's crazy.
I mean, I guess you get pretty good at it when you do 1 or 2 a day.
I guess, but like, what's that say about the brand, right? And so
he says they're like puzzle pieces when you get in there. It's just like all like a puzzle piece. Yeah, it's just like
easy to manufacture, I bet.
Yes.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm like, I'm just gonna take the cash from the Kia, and maybe I'll just give Grace the cash, and then I'll just buy whatever new car, at least whatever new car outright. So there's no worry about the equity split or anything like that. But now I'm looking at, okay, do I lease or do I buy, and what do I lease or buy? Right? I mentioned last week I was looking at Toyotas or Lexuses because of their reliability, which is kind of what I need right now. And when I'm looking at what to do here, I'm trying to think of what functions should this car serve? Because previously I had mentioned that C8 Corvettes are a decent price right now, and I can get approved for the loan.
Right.
But thinking about it, practically what do I need? It should have 4 doors, because that's what the Kia had, and back seats is helpful. You could argue that the trunk is helpful, but for real estate, if we drive clients around, it'd be nice to have 4 seats, right? So, okay, it's going to be a 4-door. That's not really my forte
Yeah.
because I don't really like four-door cars. I don't like sedans. So I'm already off to like a rocky start with finding something that I like. But it's got to be four-door. It has to present nicely to the outside world because I don't want to buy a new car or lease a new car and have it look like a fucking Prius.
Mm.
So it's got to look decent. And then it has to be reliable. Above all else, it has to be reliable because at this point, between the Camaro and the Kia and borrowing my mom's Kia, I'm at my wit's end because I cannot effectively do either of my jobs as an engineer or real estate agent if I do not have a reliable vehicle in my life.
Yeah.
Right. And with Grace out of town and me juggling all this shit, I'm getting stressed out with everything that's going on and the lack of reliability. So whatever car I'm going to get, it has to be reliable. Right. So I'm not trading it in for a fucking Kia Tiger. So I'm looking between leasing and financing. And at first I'm chat GPTing just to kind of like, break the ice and get my feet wet with it. And it's looking like I can lease a car for like $350 a month.
Yeah.
And if I want to buy a car, it's going to be like $600 a month. And I'm like, okay, leasing makes more sense here, right? Because I'm paying less. The dealership is going to deal with all the maintainability and stuff. If there's ever a big issue with it, they'll pay for it and they'll give me a rental car to take home and drive while they get it fixed, right?
Yeah.
And the more I start to learn about the lease and the more I start to look into it, I realize, A, there's a limited number of miles you can put on the car that are actually covered by warranty.
Yeah. And you take on the worst period in terms of depreciation.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if you wanted to buy the car afterward, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Mm.
So if I am to lease, I'm going to lease not to buy the car at the end of it, but just to get me through this next like year of my life where I didn't need a reliable car and don't care how much it costs, right? But so the limited miles thing is a big problem because I mean, we probably put more than the 10,000 mile minimum that
I mean, I put 25 a year.
Right. And
25, 30 a year.
right. And you drive more than I
Yeah.
do.
I mean, even Joel, I think, puts on 25 a year. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but even Joel, like you guys drive a lot more than I do. So it's not going to be quite 25, but it will be more than the 10 that the lease
That is for sure.
locks in. And I looked it up and they're like, you can negotiate a longer mileage that the warranty covers and the maintenance covers. But even at that, if you go over that, you pay like 50 cents for every extra mile you do or something like that.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, okay, well, even if I do that, that cost is going to be at the end of my lease limit. So in 3 years, so I could roll the dice and bank on me having that money in 3 years.
Yeah.
That's an option. And then I also looked at it and I was like, wait, they'll cover like problems. So if something stops working, they'll cover it, but I have to pay for oil changes and new tires and brakes. And that's like a major cost that I would be wanting to avoid with the lease anyway. So it's not really shaping up to be what I thought a lease was, right? And then I'm also going to have to get gap insurance because you can always get fucked with getting in an accident that's not your fault and then still having to pay for a lease for a car you don't have.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to pay gap insurance, which I would have to do if I financed a car anyways. And so like now I'm kind of teetering back and forth between leasing and owning, right? And then I go to Toyota and Lexus's websites and I look at how much it's actually going to cost to lease a vehicle. And it's like $650 a month. And I'm like, wait, hang on, that's more than a car payment. So why am I not just buying a car?
Yeah.
I can lease a 2025 car for the same price as buying like, a 2 or 3 year old car.
Yeah.
And so now I'm kind of leaning toward buying. So I get on the phone with Grace and like we're going back and forth all the time. She's like, my family members are really concerned because they're worried that you're going to lose all the value of the Kia if you put it in a lease.
I'm getting a bicycle.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, honestly, there's so little money in the Kia. It doesn't fucking matter to me if we light it on fire with a lease because
it doesn't. At this point, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's liquidated, right?
Yeah.
Too many people look at cars as an investment and not as an.
It's not. As they're all a fucking liability.
Yeah, they're all expenses, right?
Not
Like
all liability.
I would never buy a car without fully recognizing that I will never get that money back.
Yeah.
Like every dollar I put in the Camaro, I know if I get in a crash, insurance isn't paying for jack shit.
No.
Like I'm never getting that.
I had freaking like $8,000 of that fucking 330 insurance. Give me 47 after I negotiated or whatever.
Exactly, right? And even if you go to sell a car, it's like you like never ever buy a car because you think it's an investment. Only buy a car as an expense, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm talking on
It's
the
just
phone.
a game of like how much of an expense.
Right. I'm talking on the phone with Grace. And she's like, yeah, like my family thinks this and that. I'm like, how many of your family members are car people? And she was like, well, none of them. And I was like, okay, we don't care in that case. Like collectively, you and I, Grace, we don't care. And she was like, okay, that's a good point. And I was like, yeah, how many of them like work on their cars? How many of them own them? And she was like, well, people are suggesting that we trade it in for a new Kia. And I was like, Grace, fuck your family. No. And she was like, well, they're also recommending Mazda because they're reliable. And I was like, we are getting a Toyota or a Lexus. I am not getting a fucking Mazda. And she was like, well, Sanders' car's a Mazda and it's reliable. And I was like, okay, well, that's a good point. And so I'm like,
Well, my Mazda wasn't built by Ford.
yeah. I was like, generally speaking, we're buying a reliable vehicle, but like, don't listen to your family. Like, just listen to me. And she was like, okay, you make some good points. And so now we're looking at potentially leasing, maybe buying. And so ultimately I'm like, okay, buying is going to be the same price or less than a lease. I'm on the hook for maintenance. But if I buy a reliable car, hopefully the maintenance won't cost too much, right? And so ultimately I decide to buy.
Yeah.
I want to buy a reliable car, which basically negates the leasing advantage.
I
Because
swear to God, if you get through this fucking skit and you're like, I bought a CTSD Blackberry, I'm gonna fucking lose my shit. I'm gonna lose my fucking shit. I'm gonna walk out on your podcast and we're gonna go look at it.
So reliable. So what I realized was, if you like, what is the point? The advantage to a lease is that they cover the reliability failures. They cover the cost of the reliability failures, right?
Yeah.
But you're leasing a brand new car.
Yeah.
So what are the odds the bottom end of your motor blows up in the first 40,000 miles of
Highly
ownership?
unlikely.
Highly unlikely, right? Advantage lease gone, right? What if I buy a used car that's already got its original depreciation gone, but is a largely reliable car? And if I can get it at lower miles, then I kind of don't have to deal with the reliability issues anyways.
Right.
It's a risk because I have to pay for it if it happens. The lease isn't like a lock-in anyways, right? You're
No,
thinking
it's
about the Cadillac. Oh, your share suite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I can even get a car that's still under warranty if it's low miles, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, so now I'm looking at buying a car, right? So here's my research negotiation strategy. So now Grace has been out of town for like 3 days. I'm talking with the Indians about getting the Kia sold. And I'm like, okay, I'm realistically looking at about $1,300 to work with here with the Kia. And that might just be going straight to Grace. So here's my research and negotiation strategy, right? I need to figure out what the dealer invoice price is, which is basically calculating how much profit is the dealer making on this car. And I found a website called Car Edge that sometimes gives you the dealer invoice price on what they bought it from the factory or back from a leasing company. So what I learned is that when a dealership gets a car from the factory sells it to them with, it's called a, where is it here? Oh, I didn't write it down. What's it called? There's
I feel like I know this term.
it's not a rebate.
It's like a lien.
No,
some sort?
It's
Or-
fuck, I can't remember what it is. Essentially, the factory sells it to the dealership, ensuring that there's going to be a profit, even if the dealer sells it for exactly what they paid the factory for. I forget what it's called. It's not like a kickback or something. It's like a safety net kind of, right? So knowing the dealer invoice price is important because you know that that's their bottom line while still making profit, even if the factory isn't happy with them, right? And this website Car Edge sometimes gives you that depending on the dealer, right? So I want to figure out how much money the dealer's making. I also need to figure out how much the salesman is making on commission, because some salesmen work 9 to 5 salary and some work on commission. Obviously, those getting commission have skin in the game with getting a higher price for the vehicle out of me than if they work on salary, right? So I need to know who I'm working with here.
Yeah.
Additionally, a lot of dealerships will add unnecessary add-ons. So they'll say like, oh, dude, like we cleaned the car for you, or like we shellacked the paint or whatever. And I'm like, cool, that you should have rolled that into the price of your car. It's already been done. You can't take it off and I don't want to pay for it. Maybe I want to buy the same exact car, but without that shit on it, right? So take it off. So I got to look out for unnecessary add-ons. Also, I'm car shopping at the end of June, which is important because it's at the end of the month and dealers need to meet quotas, right? They want to get a certain number of cars sold by the end of the month.
Yeah. Additionally, 2026 models are starting to roll out.
And it's not only the end of the quarter, not only the end of the month, but June is the end of the quarter too. So it's the end of the quarter, end of the first term of the year, and 2026 cars are starting to roll.
Yeah.
So they're going to be motivated to get
Old
product
shit
in,
off.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a good time to buy for me, right? I also know myself, and if I nitpick the shit out of them because I know cars, that gives me a bargaining chip. So I can do an inspection on everything, right? And then also, I learned a negotiation strategy is to send the salesman back to their boss multiple times. Because the way it works is you sit down with them and they're like, here's the price of the vehicle. You're like, I don't like that. Take 1,000 off. And they're like, I'll go talk to my boss. They go talk to him. They come back. They're like, hey, we got that 1,000 off. And then you go, awesome. They're like, do we have a deal? And you're like, actually, I thought of this other thing. Keep sending them back for more money off and more money off. Don't ask for the big chunk right away because they're either not going to do it and they will like risk losing the sale because they know that you're insane. Or they'll come back and then it's like a negotiation back and forth. Ask for something reasonable every time until you're down to the number that you want. That's what I learned.
Hmm.
So Car Edge not only gives you the dealer invoice sometimes, it also gives you the window sticker sometimes, which is great because as I was looking through these different dealerships, no one knows how to fucking spec their car on their dealership website. They use the wrong paint code. They use the wrong name of the interior colors. They use the wrong fucking make and model and engine type sometime. It's fucking ridiculous. So when I'm looking at a photo, sometimes I was finding, oh, this is a car that I like. I'm scrolling through another dealership in the area, and then I see the same car. It's the same photo of the same car, different VINs. And so then I look up the VINs, and I'm like, these are completely different cars, and they're just using the wrong photos on their website. So, and I'm looking across the state of Florida because I'm willing to drive like 6 hours to get the right car, right? I want the widest range of options possible because I only have like 3 days to find a car before Grace comes home and we have to go get a new one, right?
Yeah.
And so as I'm looking at all of these options, it's difficult to tell what's real and what's not. But I start to narrow down on a make and model that I like. I start to get my negotiation strategies ready to go. And it's Wednesday. The day I'm going to go day by day here because this is where my personal hell begins on a Wednesday, right? On Wednesday, I decide that I'm going to go car shopping on Thursday to beat the end of the month crowd because July 1st is on a Tuesday. It's on the following Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's going to go to the dealerships Saturday and Sunday to get the end of month discounts and stuff because they have work Monday on the 31st, right? So I'm going to go not Friday to beat them to the crowd because there's going to be other people that are going to go Friday to try to beat them to it. I'm going to go Thursday, even sooner, right? Grace gets home Wednesday night. So I'm going to pick her up from the airport. We're going to go home and sleep, and then we're going to drive straight to the dealership, right? The car that I like is in Hollywood, Florida. So it's like an hour and a half south of us,
Yeah.
right? So Wednesday, I call the guy. His name's Steve. And I'm like, hey, Steve, I like this car. Can you verify it's there? He's like, yeah, we have it. And I was like, awesome. I'd like to come take a look at it tomorrow in the morning. And he was like, sounds good. Like, I'll reserve the car for you. I'll make sure it doesn't get sold. And I was like, yeah, no problem. And I was like, hey, just curious. It shows the car on your website, but I was looking at the car on Car Edge late last week, and it said that you had the car, and then now it's not showing up on Car Edge anymore as of Monday. So it looks like it hasn't been at your dealership for 2 days, but it still shows it on your dealer website. And he was like, yeah, weird, man. I don't know. It shows we have it. Like, I'm looking at the car, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. As long as you have it, I don't mind. Maybe I have a competitive edge because Car Edge is bugging out, and other people don't think you have the car, and now I know that it's there. So I've got it on reserve. I'll see you in the morning. He's like, sounds good. So after that, I have been shopping around for interest rates for a loan, right? Because if I buy a car, I'm probably going to need a loan for it. And I have a ballpark on what kind of car I want. So I know roughly how much I need to ask for the loan. I have been banking with Launch Federal Credit Union for like 5 years now, or probably more than that, probably like 8 years. And they offered me an interest rate of like 7.5%, which to me feels high.
That's not high for a loan at all.
For a loan, it's not bad. For a car loan, it's maybe average. I don't know. I wasn't happy with it.
Feels low to me for a loan. For how much?
This was going to be for 30,000.
That's low.
So then I went
think that's low.
then I went to Capital One, who's been my credit company for like 5 years. And they offered me 11.5%.
Yeah.
So now I'm like,
more like it.
okay, 7.5 is low. So then I went to Community Credit Union because I talked to some people that we know that have car payments. And Community Credit Union offered me like 12%. And I was like, fuck all this shit. Okay, fine. I guess I'll go with Launch. But the day before driving down to look at this car, I was like, Northrop Grumman has a federal credit union that I know people have used before and they have good experience with them. They know that I make the money that I do because they're the ones who pay my bills. Maybe they'll give me a lower rate because I work there, right? So the day before going to look at this car, I go to the credit union and they approve me for a loan for 5.7%.
Oh, wow.
Significantly improved. And I'm like, okay, this is still more than I was hoping for. I was hoping for like 3 or 4, but now looking at what my actual options are, this isn't as bad, right? 5.79%. Grace's flight is scheduled to land at midnight. So I'm going to get home around like 1, in bed at 1:30, and I'll wake up at 8 to go look at the car. Cool, right?
Mhm.
Wrong. Her flight gets delayed until 4 a.m.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I end up getting to bed closer to 5, and then I wake up at 8 to go um, uh, look at this car, right?
Yeah.
One moment. It's Thursday morning. I wake up early, go get a tea from the bar, go get gas in the car. We're taking the Camaro down to Hollywood,
Yeah.
Florida, because at this point, my parents need both their cars. I don't want to bother you, and I'm just going to take the Camaro. It's not leaking. The epoxy is holding up okay. So I'm just going to take the Camaro down, right? So I get everything ready. I call the dealership to confirm that we're all good to go. Different guy answers the phone. I was like, hey, I'm looking for Steve. And they're like, oh, I'm not sure if he's in today. And I was like, I talked to him on the phone yesterday. He said he was going to text me. He never did. It's like he doesn't even want to get this car sold. I have an appointment for like 11:30. And he was like, sounds good. I'll see if I can get Steve on the phone, but it looks like you're good to go. And I was like, okay, cool. Car is confirmed. Even if it's not Steve, I don't care because Steve didn't really impress me anyways. So I go fill the car with gas. I come home to pick up Grace. Grace is dead tired because she had been traveling all day.
Yeah.
She actually had a flight out of JFK that was a layover in a different state. And that flight to JFK was delayed so late, she thought it was going to be canceled. So she drove a state down to her layover. Turns out the JFK flight was canceled, and she drove to the city where her layover flight was to get on that flight to get home. So all day traveling. So she's dead tired, right?
Wow.
And we are literally getting in the car when Steve calls me back, and he's like, hey man, how you doing? I'm like, hey. He was like, dude, we're excited to see you today. And I was like, awesome, me too, dude. He was like, just so you know, we did get that car sold last night, so we don't actually have it today, but we've got other cars that are really similar for you to come look at. And I was like, bro, are you kidding? I told you it's an hour and a half drive. You said you put the car on reserve for me. You said you had the car, and I told him flat out, I was like, I don't think you had the car at all. I think Car Edge was right, and you didn't update your dealership doc and showed that you actually sold the car last week. He was like, no, man, I promise it was another agent yesterday. And I was like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. And I hung up the phone. And they have continued to call me, and I've continued to not pick up. I forget what dealership it was, or I flamed them on the podcast. But like, Steve, you have not impressed me, and you missed a sale. If he was straight up with me to begin with, then maybe I would have considered a different car. But like,
Yeah.
now
He might have just not known. If it was a dealership accounting issue, he might have just not known.
So I have since looked into there's a guy online who has a whole business about negotiating car deals, right? So he actually lives in Florida. I think he's based in Sarasota.
Mm.
But he'll call dealerships and find me the car I want for the price I want. And then I just go sign the paperwork and pick up the car. It's all prearranged.
That's freaking nice.
He charges like $500 an hour, but honestly, following the experience I'm about to share with you, I will be paying for that service if I ever buy a new car again.
So it's like have you heard about the people that will you can pay them to stand in line at the DMV for you?
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We can make appointments online now.
I know, but like if it's still like a long wait, like even with appointments sometimes, like especially at busy DMVs, it can still be a long wait. And you can pay someone to go stand in line for you,
Interesting.
and like then you can like bump in.
How much money would you make if you did that at Disney?
I think there was a woman who said she made like 200 a day standing in line for people at the DMV, which is fucking nuts.
That's crazy. Dude,
Yeah.
we could make so much money doing that at Disney.
Oh yeah,
Dude,
at Disney,
a lot of money. Yeah.
Dude.
Anyways.
I can make
So-
bank on that. I hate all the roller coasters anyway.
Yeah. So, okay. So getting back to this. Oh, so while I'm looking at people online, like this guy that does the thing, there's other people that sell used cars or know people that sell used cars. And then one of them, it was like a podcast, and the guy was like, what's something illegal that dealerships still do to this day? And he was like, they'll say that they have cars in inventory that they don't have just to get customers through the door. And so I found this out last night. And so now today I'm fucking livid at Steve, because now I know that it's a fucking tactic, or I have reason to believe it's a tactic and it's not a mistake. But whatever. So it's Thursday morning. We're both fucking tired. I haven't eaten yet. I've already had a Celsius. Now it's whatever, 9 a.m. And so I go back upstairs. Fortunately, I have a spreadsheet that I've been tracking all the cars that I'm interested in and all the VINs, right? Unfortunately, I'm very picky. So when it has come to this car, once I determined to make in a model, I also determined what spec I wanted. So a specific interior, a specific exterior, a specific drivetrain. I want these features. Like I've got it narrowed down, right? So I've got like 40 options total, with maybe 5 of them fitting the bill that I really want, right? And as I'm looking through these, I'm calling other dealerships and I'm like, hey, do you have this car? I see it on your website. I just want to confirm it's there. One specific car, it was like my Grail car, for a price that I now know I couldn't have afforded, but I didn't know it at the time. But I called the dealer and they were like, "Oh yeah, I'll go check on it for you." And I was like, "Cool." They're like, "We'll call you back in 10 minutes." And I was like, "Sounds good." I wait 20 minutes, nothing. I call back, different person picks up. "Oh yeah, I'll go check for you, 10 minutes." I wait. This time I only wait 10 minutes. Call him back, different person. And so I'm like, "Hey, you know, I'm looking for this car. No one's getting back to me." And they're like, "This lady is like so fucking sassy. She's in Miami." And so she's like, "Don't fucking talk to me that way. We're looking for you." And I was like, "How big is your dealership that you can't find a car? I've been waiting on the phone for over an hour now for this fucking one guy. Where's John? Why can't John get back to me about this car?" Um, and she was like, "I'll go look for you personally." I was like, "Thank you." And so I hang up the phone. She was like, "I'll call you back in 10 minutes." I'm like, "Okay." So I hang up. I wait 20 minutes. I call back again and I go, "Hi." And a lady picks up the phone. I'm like, "Hi." And I'm like, "Hi, I've been waiting to try and see if you guys have one car. Do you have a manager on the phone? Because no one's able to get this information for me." And then she snaps back sassy. It's the lady from before. And she was like, "I'm literally looking right now. I am the manager." And I muted the phone and I talked to Grace. I'm like, "There's no way this bitch is the manager. She's fucking got an attitude." And so I wait on hold for like another 30 minutes while she calls their sister dealership across town to see if they have the car. After an hour and a half dealing with this bitch, they can't determine if they have the car, if they sold the car, if someone stole it. They don't know what the fuck happened to this VIN number. And so I'm like, I'm done with this dealership. Even if you have another car I'm interested in, I'm not buying it because I'm not dealing with you. I cannot imagine driving down to Miami to deal with your fucking dumb ass for God knows how long to not buy a car that exists. So at this point, I'm narrowing down my options on my Grail car. And I'm like, you know what? Okay. All I can think about in your fucking story is, bro. So
That's like the sound I hear.
so now I'm like, okay, I might not get my perfect car. I might need to take a concession and change some specs. And so I reconfigure my spreadsheet to widen my range of options and be more open-minded,
Mm.
right? Um, and fortunately, as I do that, a couple cars are of interest to me now at this point. And I'm like, okay, so I call a couple dealerships. Some of them have the car. They won't give me the out the door price. Some of them confirm they're there, right? And eventually I find one car that I really like, and it's a better deal than some of the previous ones that I've been looking at. Even my Grail car. This car has all the specs and features that I like. It's a different exterior color, but I think I'm okay with it. But it actually has bonus features that the other one didn't have. It's lower mileage and lower price. And
Hmm.
so I'm like, this seems like a good, solid deal. And so I call the dealer. An articulate woman picks up the phone and she's like, "Yes, we have the car. I'm looking at it." And I'm like, "Thank you. Can I put down like a $500 refundable deposit or a deposit that goes toward the down payment of the car for you to hold the car for me?" And she was like, "We don't do that at the dealership. I'm so sorry." And I was like, "I will be driving 3 hours from the Space Coast down to Miami to get this car. I will buy it today if I like it and it's the right deal. Can you put it on hold for me?" And she was like, "I will give the keys to a sales associate and I will tell him to tell everyone else to not sell the car until you get here. You just have to promise us that you're actually coming." And I was like, "I will send you live updates from my Apple CarPlay as I drive down there." And she was like, "Sounds good." So they put the car on hold for me, even though I don't put any money down, which is standard in dealerships. I'm surprised they don't do that, even though it's Miami.
Yeah, if it's a busy dealership, maybe not.
Yeah,
Or maybe they're playing a game.
I don't know. But either way, I'm like,
Scarcity.
yeah, either way. So now it's like noon. So I'm gonna get there at like 3 p.m.
Yeah.
But Grace and I get in the Camaro and we start driving down. And on the way down, the first hour goes by no issue. Second hour starts to go by no issue. And then all of a sudden my temps spike. And so I pull over to a gas station and I get under the hood and I'm out of water. There's no more coolant in the system. At this point, it's just purified water because I gave up on coolant long ago. But the high temp epoxy that I had put on the car failed.
Fuck.
So I buy 6 2-gallon jugs of water from this gas station. And I'm like, I'm going to brute force this car to this dealership. And then when we get there, I'm going to brute force that dealership into a price that I want so I can drive this car home because the Camaro will not make it home at this point. So now I'm stressing because they're not actually holding the car for me. It's a loose promise. And I've only had my dick jerked around by dealerships so far.
Yeah.
So I've already got a bad reputation with them, right? Or they have a bad reputation with me. So I refill the car with coolant. I can see where it's leaking from in the heater hose through the epoxy. There's like a flap of the epoxy that has like lifted up. So I flex tape that down a little bit to just try to get it to like patch it a little bit so it doesn't leak so fast. And we continue driving. 15 minutes later, I overheat again and I have to pull over. I'm not actually letting it overheat. I know what to see. So when I get to like 220 temps, I'm like, I got to pull over because I got the 160 thermostat. So Every 15 minutes for the last hour and a half of the drive, I have to pull over and top it up. And I mean, we're on the turnpike, so there's not always a shoulder to pull off on. Sometimes I have to actually exit. Sometimes there's like a fork in the road and I have to pull into the fork and fill up there with my hazards on, which is dangerous. And I don't like doing it even with my hazards on. Um, Sometimes we pull off at the rest areas they have on the turnpike. Um, and at this point, I'm having to stop and fill it up every 15 minutes. But we get to the dealership. We're only 30 minutes late from my estimated arrival time. And I've been texting with my salesman the entire time to let him know what's going on. I'm not letting him know that I have to stop and fill up with coolant because I don't want him to know that I need a car to drive home.
Right.
I'm telling him that we run into traffic and he's cool with it. And so we finally get to the dealership and I'm like, okay, let's look at this car. I want to test drive it and then we'll talk about money. And they were like, sounds good. Walk around the car, sit in the car, mess with all the buttons. Everything looks good. Everything matches what it is online. It's actually much nicer in person than I thought it was going to be online, which I'm pleasantly surprised by. We do a test drive. Everything feels good. Everything sounds good. I'm like, all right, let's go inside and let's talk about price. That's when this shit kicks off. So we get inside. Online, I'm not going to give you the price because I want you to guess what car I got later. Online, it's listed for X price, right? I do not have a loan approval for X price. They don't know that. Online, it's for X price. And I go, okay, cool. And they're like, awesome. So we're going to write everything out. And here's your out the door price. It is over 30% more the out the door price than what it's listed for online. And I was like, are we talking about the same vehicle? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, no, it's listed for like a third less online. We're not playing this game. And he was like, oh no, well, so here's the deal. Our Kelley Blue Book has it valued at X amount, and we're giving you a $1,520 discount off the Kelley Blue Book value, right? Then you can do a $1,000 trade-in for your current vehicle. Then it's another $1,000 off if you finance with us, right? That's how you get to the price online. But once you're there, that's assuming you do the trade-in and the financing with them, which I'm not doing either, right?
Right.
Then they add $1,800 for dealer warranty, $1,200 for the dealer service fee because they vacuumed the carpets and like have changed the oil. And they did change the tires. I confirmed that. So, okay, maybe some of that is valid, right? Then taxes, which is always, I mean, like we said earlier, 6%. It's Miami, so it's actually more than that.
Yeah.
Um,
6.5,
yeah.
I believe, or 7. I don't know.
I can't remember. Then $400 for the registration fee because I don't have a plate to transfer over, and then a $200 documentation fee, which is non-negotiable. And all that brings the price up over 25% what the original was. And I was like, wow, I have so much work cut out for me. And by now I'm sweating because the Camaro is in the parking lot with no coolant in it. And I'm now down to like maybe 6 gallons in the back. I bought 12 2-gallon jugs. Now I'm down to 6. I cannot drive the Camaro home tonight. The leak has gotten worse progressively as we get to the dealer. And so I'm like, I've already had Grace text her sister's fiance's parents that live in Miami, 30 minutes from the dealership. And they say we can leave the car there overnight. My plan at the time is to hit it with more epoxy and then hope that that can get me home the next day. But the plan is to leave the Camaro in Miami overnight. And then either we're going to stay in a hotel or Uber home or get a car from the dealership, right?
Yeah.
But the way it's looking right now, I can't afford it. And even if I could afford it, I don't know if I'm willing to pay it.
Yeah.
And so this is when the negotiation starts. And so, okay, first thing first, take off all the dealer fees. All the dealer fees. That's the $1,800 dealer warranty, the $1,200 dealer service fee. Get rid of all that shit. So I have him go to his boss, and he comes back. He's like, hey, I was able to get all that stuff off. Let's make a deal. And I was like, cool. Do you have a Carfax report for the car? He was like, yeah, let me go get that for you. So he goes and he gets it. And he brings it back. The Carfax is like a 4.5 out of 10 or 4.5 out of 5 or something like that. It's got impeccable maintenance, but it had a cosmetic damage like a year ago that was repaired by the dealer, right? And the way that Carfax has it reported, it's not structural, it's just cosmetic. So this would be like a fender bender or something like that, right? But it doesn't have a perfect Carfax. And so the Carfax value of the car is less than the Kelley Blue Book value. And so I was like, hey, since you're giving me that discount based on the Kelley Blue Book value, that's general for this make and model. For this VIN number, it's actually worth less. Carfax says it's like $1,500 less. So why don't you give me an extra $1,500 off because we're going off of this specific car, not the general car? And we kind of argued about that. And then I was like, why don't you go tell your boss that I'm buying a car with a damage report? I'm making it sound like it's more than it is. And and do it from there. So he's like, okay. So he comes back and he's like, all right, fine. But like, we'll drop it down to that. Right. And I'm like, also, we're still not at the price that I want. Because it's not like the price online. I want the price online. So let's talk about this trade-in. I've got a Kia that doesn't run. Want it? And he was like, how much is it worth? And so I told him that I had a quote for $1,300. And he was like, we could probably give you like 1,000 for it. And I was like, cool. Are you going to pay to have it towed down from the Space Coast? And he was like, we'll split the cost on towing. And I was like, we won't. You'll give me my $1,000 off of this car today, and I'll deal with the towing and everything and save you the hassle. And so he kind of gave up on that one. And so then I was like, okay, let's look at the Carfax, because it said that the brakes were replaced 10,000 miles ago, but I noticed a lip on the rotor and worn pads on the rears of the car. And so he was like, the brakes are fine. And I was like, they're not. Go get your fingernail on that rotor. There's a lip. They're going to have to be replaced soon. Carfax says brakes were replaced. I think only the fronts were replaced. And so he's like, let me go out and look at the car. So he brings it into the service bay and gets it up on a lift. He doesn't know I'm a car guy. So he comes back in. He's like, hey guys, why don't you come out to the service bay and I'll have you talk to my technician? And I'm like, sounds good. This guy's a salesman. He doesn't know cars, and he doesn't know that I know cars better than his technician does. So we get out there, and the technician he points at the brakes, and he was like, see, you guys are good. The front brakes do more work than the back brakes. So like, that's where you need most of your brakes, and see, the fronts are good. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, the front brakes will always do more work, because when you're braking, you're putting more mass on the front wheels. That's just how physics works, mate. These back brakes have a lip on the rotor. They're going to have to be replaced soon. And he was like, no, the front ones have plenty of life, and that's all you need. And I was like, you don't think I need brakes on the rear of the car? And he was like, these don't need to be replaced. And I was like, there's a lip on the rotor. Read my lips, dog. What are you talking about? Get your fingernail under there. I'm like getting my fingernail under the pad. And I was like, I can't fit my fingernail between the pad and the rotor. That's not much meat left on the pad. And he was like, oh, well, the lip on the rotor doesn't mean it needs to be replaced. And I was like, no, it's an indicator. It doesn't mean it needs to be replaced. It needs to be replaced soon, and you have to keep an eye on it. And he was like, well, the way we determine is by taking the pads off and then using like a caliper on the pads to see how thick they are and to see if we need to replace them. I was like, cool, let's take the pads off. And they were like, no, we're not doing that. And I was like, we are doing that, because I don't want to pay for these rear brakes when you can just take it off the cost of the car right now. And they were like, dude, like, come on, just be reasonable, whatever. And then I was like, no, you brought me out here and had your service technician try to lie to me. No offense to you, bud. I know you don't want to have to do a brake job right now. Equally, I don't want you to have to do a brake job right now. Why don't we just like forget? It's already 5 p.m. You're ready to go home. Just give me the brakes off the price of the car. And so he was like, fine. And he's unhappy about it at this point, right? So we get back down and we sit down. And so he writes out the price of the car, and it's still higher than I want it. And I'm like, hey man, listen, I'm not doing this price. I need another 1,000 off for the financing. He was like, awesome. We'll do a hard pull on your credit and see if you're approved for the financing. I was like, wait a minute. I already have approval for a loan at a good rate. And I know that I can go get that, the loan bumped up if I need more money at the same rate. Right. So I don't want to do financing with you because it's not as good of a rate. And I shouldn't be encouraged to do that, because over the life of the loan, I'm not going to make that $1,000 discount back if I finance with you guys at your shit rates. And so at this point, he goes and gets the owner of the dealership to come over. His name's Jose. And Jose tried to play hardball with me, and he was like, listen, man. And he was like, every time the salesman comes back here, I told him, just give him the full discount. Give him the price that's on the website. Give him everything, because this guy's not going to buy this car. He's not serious. And I was like, I am serious, but I'm not going to go with your shit financing. And so we start talking, and he starts to realize that I actually like know things about cars. We talk about the brakes on the back and stuff like that. And he was like, listen, man, all the dealers in this area know the same AI tool that gauges the price of the car. This car's been on the market for a week. I know it's going to sell by the end of the month. The AI models have told us that it's a great price. It's great mileage. Just agree to this price on the car. And I was like, I'll tell you this. I want that $1,000 discount for financing, because I know you're willing to take that off if people finance with you. And I think I'm entitled to that discount because you can't match my loan. And he was like, what is your credit score? And I was like, 780. And he was like, what's your interest rate? And I was like, 5.7. He goes, our guys can beat that. And I go, okay, shake my hand right now. If you come back with a lower interest rate for the same loan amount, I'll finance with you and I'll get my $1,000 discount. If you can't beat that, I get my $1,000 discount and I go with my banking's lower interest rate. And he was like, sounds good. We shook hands, got the finance manager over. Now it's like 6:30 p.m. So it's getting dark and people are leaving. We fill out the credit application. He goes back and runs his numbers. He comes back. He's like, hey, we work with a wide range of banks. So far, I've gotten estimates back on 3 of them. So now it's like 7:30. And he's like, the best one we have is from Wells Fargo, and it looks like they're able to do 9.2%. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. And he was like, I can go back and see if I can do better. And I was like, I have 5.79. If you can't do better than that, don't waste my time. He was like, let me see what I can do. And I was like, okay. So he goes back and then he comes back again, 8.44. And I said, we're done here. Get the paperwork. I'm buying the car at the price that I want with my interest rate. And they were like, okay, sounds good. And so when they put on the taxes and the registration fee and the doc fee and whatever else, it comes out to be more than what my loan approval is for and more than the down payment that I wanted to put down on the car. Because rent is due Monday, my paycheck hits Thursday. I don't have a ton of money right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm like trying to figure out how to shuffle all my money and my accounts together while also covering the down payment tonight. And then, oh, fuck, I have to get approved for a higher loan. It's already 7 o'clock, right? Northrop Grumman Federal Credit Union is based in California. So they're still working.
Yeah.
So I call them. I got approved for my higher loan amount. It's not much, but it's, I still had to get it done. Get that worked out. Now it's like 8 p.m. and we start doing the paperwork for the thing, right? And so we start filling out all the paperwork, and I'm starting to realize they need a check from my bank, like a hard check. They don't do Northrop doesn't do direct wire. They only do check. And I can't take the car home until then. And that leaves me without a car tonight. And so I'm like, hey, I really would love this car. Happy we were able to work out a deal. I need to drive this car home tonight. How do we make that happen? And so they were like, we can set up something called a courtesy contract. So you sign the paperwork with Wells Fargo at that 8.4 interest rate. And that way, if in 14 days you don't get us our check from Northrop Grumman Federal Credit Union, you lock in with that Wells Fargo contract. But you're able to drive the car home today. And at first I was really sketched out because all of these guys, their first language is Spanish. Nice guys, generally speaking, nice guys. But the communication was a little rocky. And I've been on the phone with Indians all fucking week dealing with Copart Direct. So I'm already not like on the same wavelength with, like, I just want somebody to give it to me straight, right? And so Grace helps me figure out what they actually mean by the courtesy contract. And I'm not signing this contract to be locked in. And I got reassurance from the owner of the dealership that they're not going to fuck me over or anything like that. And I was like, awesome. I just want it in writing. I got it in writing. No interest. No problem. Right. And so we finished filling out the paperwork. I put down my down payment, and we're able to leave with the keys so we can drive the car home.
Nice.
Thank God, because the Camaro is too leaky to get home at all. So now comes the actual stressful part of my week, leaving the dealership. It's 9:30 at night. We're in Miami. I have not eaten today. I've had 1 apple, 1 Celsius, and 3.5 hours of sleep. And it's 9:30 at night. And I just went through all this shit with the dealership. I'm stressed. I'm at my wit's end. We have to make a 15-minute drive to AutoZone, which means I'm going to have to fill up my coolant at least once in that drive. Turns out I have to fill it up twice in the 15-minute drive to AutoZone. Grace is following me in the new car. It's confusing to her. It's nighttime. She doesn't see well at night. So like, she's kind of like barely keeping up with me. I have to keep the car moving as fast as possible at the lowest RPM possible to try to keep it cool. And that's not happening in Miami traffic. So we get to AutoZone to buy the JB Weld, and I buy it. And we're 28 minutes away from the house that we're leaving the car at. We have to get on the turnpike, like the highway. And so I walk over to Grace. I'm like, hey, okay, at this rate, I'm estimating we're going to have to stop to fill up the car every 5 minutes with coolant. I have enough coolant to get us there, but we will have to stop every 5 minutes. I need you to stay behind me. I need you to stay on my ass. And then I need, every time I have to pull over, I'm going to put my hazards on and then pull over with me. Okay. And she was like, okay. We start the drive. I actually have to fill up every 3 minutes with coolant. Like, I am filling it up to the top and then running out completely. And I have to fill it up with one of the 2-gallon jugs every 3 minutes. And we get on the highway. It's the turnpike in Miami. So there's traffic. We're not moving faster than 30 miles an hour at the fastest point. And it's heavy congestion. So there's no airflow to keep the car cool. It's the turnpike. So there's no shoulder. It's just concrete wall. So I'm having to turn off the car, leave the water pump on, coast, start the car, and limp it to the next shoulder that I can pull off on or fork in the road, right?
Yeah.
And since I have to pull over so often, I'm missing my exits. So 28 minutes has now become over an hour
Oh, fuck.
to limp this car. We have to pull over I'm not kidding you, every 3 minutes, even with turning the car off and keeping the water pump going, that's still internal pressure and it's still hot water, so it's still pissing out the hole, and the hole is getting worse. And every time we pull over, each of us are getting more and more stressed. Both of our phones are dying. Mine has 6% left. Hers has 2%. The new car doesn't have a cable, but it's got a wireless charging port that she can just set the phone down on. So she has to put her phone face down to charge. So she can't see the phone. So she's following me to know where we're going. We can't talk on the phone. And so eventually I miss an exit that like I should have taken, but for some reason I missed it. I was just like, I was frazzled and I think I fucked up. And now we're in standstill traffic on an uphill right turn. So if I turn the car off, I've got to be quick with the parking brake and stuff because Grace is still like right on my ass, and I don't want to like roll into the new car. And I have to pull over again to fill up the coolant, and now I'm down to 2 more gallons. And Grace calls me, and she's like, "Hey, why do we keep missing our exits?" And I was like, "I don't know." And she's starting to freak out, and now I'm starting to freak out because if we run out of coolant on the side of this highway at 11 p.m. at night in Miami, I don't know what to do. Like at that point, I'm out, right?
Yeah.
And some added stress here is that when we were buying the car, I had finished the paperwork for it, but in order to leave, you have to have insurance on the car. I have USAA. I pay $200 a month for insurance on the Camaro. Now I'm adding a new car with more safety features, and this is a newer car, and I'm adding Grace as a driver. USAA wanted to increase my insurance by how much per month?
385 more.
They wanted me to pay $930.
900.
So I've already signed the paperwork for this.
Yeah.
I've already signed the paperwork for this car. I have not made the down payment yet. And I'm like, I actually don't know if I can afford a car.
Oh yeah. Fuck.
And so my parents recently have said, hey, we switched from USAA to Progressive because they cut our rates in half. And I was like, $470 a month is still too much for me for insurance, but I'm going to give it a try. So I go to Progressive and we submit like a quote or whatever. And they offer me $360 a month. And I make an account and switch my insurance.
Just for that car or for both?
For everything.
Okay.
Both cars and Grace to drive the new car.
I pay 380 for
your three. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's similar with the second driver, right?
Yeah.
And so like still I was expecting 200 to maybe like 250, 280 a month because it's a safer car. So it's an extra $150 a month than I wanted to be paying. So I still have like the shock value and added stress of that. The car payment is going to come out to be on the higher end of what I was anticipating when the Kia broke down. So like there's a lot of money stress in my head. And I know that rent is due before my next paycheck hits. And I don't know if I can cash money out of my investment account fast enough to pay rent. So like I'm sweating. And now we're on the turnpike in Miami running out of coolant and running out of time. And so I'm starting to freak out. And I recently saw a TikTok after all this happened, and it was a guy who was whitewater rafting, and he had like a hard fall, like straight down, and it said POV: the moment all your other problems go away, and now you just have one fractured spine in a river canyon problem. And that's exactly how I felt like getting this car to the house.
Yeah.
Is I had to like lock in the hardest I've ever had to lock in to get this car where it needed to go, no matter what. And so we finally get it to the house. Like no coolant left. And I'm like so exhausted. I'm so done. And I still have to do this epoxy job and then drive home. And so I pop the hood. Everything is hot. It's steaming everywhere. Like this is the comic version of a car break.
Yeah.
And I get my little shitty screwdriver out from the tiny toolkit that I brought with me. And the pinhole leak is now a gash in the hose. There's no amount of epoxy that can fix this.
Yeah.
It just needs a new hose. It's on the heater hose lines that have a metal clamp around it. So I have to either Dremel that clamp out or buy a whole new part. Either way, I need to go home and then come back down to Miami. So I decided to leave the Camaro there. I unhooked the battery so that the dash cam doesn't kill the battery. And we get in the new car to drive home. And it's a 3-hour drive home. It's 11:30 at this point in Miami. And so we get home and get to sleep at like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
at this point. And so now I have a car payment to make. I have insurance to pay, more than I anticipated. I have to deal with canceling USAA because I know that the next, like 2 days from then is the end of the month. So if I don't get my policy canceled in time, I'll have to pay double coverage for July. I have to make sure that the check clears for Northrop Grumman Federal Credit Union. Otherwise, I have to pay 8.4%. Um, and I have to pay for a new Camaro part, and I have to drive back down to Miami to fix the Camaro.
Yeah.
And so I go to bed with all this on my mind, right? So I wake up Friday at 9 a.m. And I didn't eat the entire time. Didn't have any food, right? Wake up 9 a.m. Friday, immediately get on the phone with the Indians at Copart Direct. They're offering $1,300 for the car. I send them all the paperwork because I'm like, it's Friday. Let's get the car gone today. I could use this money for rent. And they go, oh, the power of attorney document is done wrong. I was like, what are you talking about? Because Grace is back home. Her mom is traveling, so not at home. What are you talking about? And they're like, oh, well, the top line, her mom accidentally wrote an address where her name was supposed to go. So she just did a strike through and then wrote her name. And so that's wrong. You have to fix that. Also, the way you had it written is that the mom is giving the power of attorney to the daughter. We need her to give the power of attorney to us to buy the car. And I was like, that's not how this works. She gives Grace the power of attorney so that Grace can sign the title over to whoever they want. And they were like, no, sir, this is not the way it is meant to be. I don't know if somebody else told you what to do. And I was like, this is the 5th, 7th, 10th person I've talked to from Copart Direct. And he was like, I'm not sure who you spoke with, but that's not the way it's supposed to be done. And I was like, go get your contracts person on the phone right now. So he go gets him. And he's like, yes, I can confirm. You have to redo the thing. And I was like, no, this isn't right. And so I hang up the phone and I talked to Grace about it. And she was like, I can have my mom go fix the strike through problem, but I don't think she's supposed to sign it over to Copart Direct. I think she's supposed to
No
sign
way.
it.
Because then they're going to call you and be like, hey, where's our car?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, have your mom go fix the strike through. I'm going to call other salvage companies. So I called A&M Auto Salvage in Melbourne. And they offered us $1,000 for the car and they would come pick it up the next day. I was like, get rid of the car.
Yeah.
Let's get it gone. I don't care. Let's get rid of it. Right.
Yeah. It's go away.
To people who speak English, to people who know how contracts work, and people that know what they're doing. Right.
Yeah.
And so her mom fucking crushes it. Thank you, Jeannie. She fucking got the paperwork done in under an hour and like, we're ready to get rid of the car. And so then I got a call the next day from Copart Direct, the day that the A&M is supposed to come pick up the car. And it's the first guy I talked to. And he was like, hey, good to hear from you again. Hey, I talked to my contracts person. It turns out you actually did it right. When can we come schedule to pick up the car? And so now I tell Grace, I'm like, listen, the Indians are willing to give us $1,300 for the car. Is it worth dealing with them? Because we're going to meet the guy to pick up the car today for A&M Auto Salvage. And she was
Punt
like,
it to A&M.
huh?
Punt it to A&M.
Yeah. I was like, I don't think it's worth dealing with. So we get to the Kia dealership. We meet the guy there. We've already cleaned out the car at this point. We've already had our Kia funeral. And we meet the tow guy there. And he comes over to look at the car and he goes, you didn't say on the phone that there was damage in the back. And I was like, yeah, I did. I said there was damage to the rear quarter panel. He was like, yeah, but the door is dented. And I was like, you're right. My mistake. I misspoke on the phone. I should have noted that it's the door because the door is more expensive. I kind of figured you were just parting a car out. And he was like, I don't know if the boss man is going to pay you $1,000 for it. And I was like, well, how much do you think it's going to take off? He was like, we might only offer $600. I have to call it. And I was like, okay. And so I'm talking to Grace about it. And I was like, whatever number he comes back with, I think we have to go for it. Even if it's $300, because he's here with the truck and a check ready to fill it out and take the car. I don't want to say no.
Make it go away.
I want to make it go away. There's no guarantee that this isn't going to happen with the Indians. I don't know what's like, even if they make it here, I don't know if they're going to haggle over the same shit. I don't want to deal with it. So he comes back and he's like, boss man is offering $850.
Oh yeah, that's batteries.
He was like, boss man is offering $850. And I was like, sign the paperwork, get it gone. And so we sold the Kia for $850.
There you go.
And so, yeah, after that, I ordered the heater hoses for the Camaro. And then this week, I drove down and I fixed the Camaro. It was raining. I was stressed out that I was going to have to do the whole job in the rain or it wasn't going to work. Fortunately, thank you for letting me borrow your tools.
No problem.
Everything went, it's the first car job I've ever done that like went off with 0 problems and didn't take as long as I thought it was going to take.
Nice.
So thank God everything went to plan and according to plan. So now, as of today, the Camaro is back here operational. The new car is here operational. I had to borrow my mom's car for a few days. I returned that, no problems. The check from Northrop Grumman cleared, so I'm locked in with my 5.8% interest rate. Canceled my USAA, so I don't have to pay double in July, and confirmed with Progressive that everything is ready to go at the rate.
Awesome. Congrats.
So that
made it happen.
Status. Yeah. So now, what car do you think I got?
So I think you definitely got a Lexus or a Toyota.
It's a good guess.
Yeah, just because.
Why? Why would I get a Lexus or Toyota?
Because you said earlier that you really wanted a Lexus or Toyota and you wanted something reliable and consistent, and I think that that's a good choice. And so I'd be surprised if you went with something other than something in that range.
Mhm.
So Lexus or Toyota. I really want to say it's the Lexus I saw at the Valhalla parking lot.
Do you know what Lexus that was?
I don't know the new cars well,
Me neither.
so I'm guessing that it's one of the V6 models. You giving me the dead face? I don't know the model.
I need you to make a pick, man. What do you think I got?
Something like
What do you hope I got?
honestly, like I know the new stuff so little. Like I have a hard time even reciting the model. What my guess is probably like a. I'm just gonna guess because I saw a car at Pauhana that I think would suit your bill. And so I'm gonna guess that car, and I'm gonna guess it was because I know modern cars so poorly, that it was a modern Lexus V6 with like really mid to higher spec, and like something like an SC. I don't know the models well, like maybe SC 380 if that's a thing, something like that. 360.
It's exactly what I got.
Is it?
It's a 2023 Lexus ES 350, so 3.5 liter
Okay, yeah.
V6, four-door sedan, front-wheel drive.
Yeah. Nice.
You are so happy I got this car and you don't even know it. Because this car and this powertrain, I've got all the specs here written.
Yeah.
So here's why you are happy I got this car. It's a Lexus 3.5 liter V6 that's a variant of the Toyota Camry engine that's been around since 2005.
Yeah.
It is one of the most reliable engines ever built, specifically by Toyota, and then was adopted by Lexus. It's the same powertrain. It's been iterated for years and years. There are people that have done well over 1 million miles on this powertrain with
Wow.
regular maintenance and no issues.
Damn.
Yeah. So it's a 24 valve, 60-degree V6 with dual overhead cams. It's got a timing chain, so no timing belt. It's a dual VVTi, so variable valve timing intelligent edition. It's got dual injections, so it's direct and port.
Okay.
And it runs on regular 87 octane, which is a big deal because a lot of Lexus models up until the 2023 model, so my year, needed, or actually even some of the models that are in my year,
I think a lot of them had a 91 limit.
a lot of them need premium gas. But the ESs don't. They take 87.
That's nice.
It's supposed to get 22 city, 32 highway. I have been averaging driving it around 25, and you know how I drive, so
That's good.
reasonable. It's got 302 horsepower at 6,600 RPM and 267 pound-feet of torque at 4,700 RPM. So more power than the Kia or my parents' cars, more than enough power to get out of its own way, right?
Yeah.
It's not a light car. It's 3,600 pounds.
It's still not super heavy.
Yeah, but for 300 horsepower, it moves decently well, right? It's got an 8-speed automatic transmission that goes back to 2017. And the 2017 and 2018 cars had some problems that they then revamped in 2019, and then again in 2022, and then again in 2023. So I have like the automatic transmission in this car is known to sometimes feel like it's fishing for gears, but it's a pretty reliable transmission as far as all things are considered. Very few people have issues with the transmission in this car. It's not a CVT or anything like that. It's an 8-speed. And it's front wheel drive. So it's I don't know who I was talking about. It was one of my buddies who's a big Lexus guy. He came over to my desk at work the other day and he was like, "I heard you got a new car. I heard you got a Lexus." And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "I never thought that you would get a front wheel drive car." And that was honestly like my biggest sticking point on this car, because when I narrowed down to Lexus, there's 2 4-door models that they have. There's the ES and the IS, and they're both 350s. So they both have the V6, right? The reliable V6. The IS is rear-wheel drive. The ES is front-wheel drive. That's pretty much the only difference in powertrain, right?
Yeah.
The IS is more expensive, but it's got a way smaller trunk, and the rear doors are the doors that like it feels like the rear of the rear door starts on the wheel well, so it's like a
little baby door.
yeah, it's weird to get in and out of. and it's supposed to be sportier. But from what I've actually read and heard people talk about, they say that the seats are less comfortable. There's noticeably less space in the actual car. The trunk is way smaller, and it's supposed to have sportier suspension, but it has the same powertrain. So it has the same power, and it just feels less comfortable. And so when I was shopping around, I was like, okay, I don't want to buy a reliable luxury car that is acting like a sports car because it's just going to drive like shit.
Yeah.
I just want a luxury car that drives like a luxury car.
Yeah.
I'm not racing this thing. Front wheel drive is fine. So I settled for front wheel drive, right?
Mhm.
So that's as far as the powertrain is concerned, right? So a reliable car, as long as I do the maintenance, it should be good. And this car in particular was a lease before I bought it. So I have a full
wow.
maintenance history of it.
Yeah.
And I'll get to the mileage later, but it's got good mileage. So I have a full maintenance history. It's been serviced at every interval to the T. And I'm going to continue doing that for the rest of its life. But hopefully it lives for a long time with very minimal effort. So here's the specific specs on my car. There's 3 different models of the ES350. There's the base, the luxury, and the ultra luxury. So the ultra luxury model has like soundproof glass and more sound dampening and like the automatic suspension that is supposed to like read it up on the road ahead of time. And the luxury edition is supposed to have like some slightly better sound damping or something like that. But like the difference, oh, and a power rear sunshade. But the difference between those two and the base isn't a whole lot. Really, the difference is in the premium package specs, which is what I got on my car. So the only difference between base luxury and ultra luxury is like suspension and then like slightly thicker glass, I guess, and the power rear sunshade. But the base model doesn't have all the stuff I'm about to list out. So originally I wanted a blue car. The Lexus has like a really beautiful deep sea navy blue that I really loved, and I wanted that. That was the car that I got my dick twisted around by like 5 different dealerships. And ultimately the concession that I made to open my options was to look at black. The Kia was black. I like the idea of a black 4-door car, especially if it's a Lexus, which is a nicer brand. It kind of feels more like Yakuza, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it kind of black goes with everything, right? And ultimately I ended up getting, it's called Obsidian Black. And it looks very good in person. It looked better in person than I thought it would, which is ultimately, I think, why I conceded and got it. I also wanted a very specific interior color. All of the Lexuses come with leather interiors or like faux leather, but they have like 10 different light color options or black. I did not want black. I wanted a leather kind of similar to the one in the Camaro. They have some weird like white interiors or like really light colored beige that I did not resonate with. There's one interior color in these cars that I like. It's called the Palomino leather with open pore walnut wood accents in the car. So with real wood. And to find that combination was fucking impossible. I only had, in my whole list, I only had like 4 cars with that combo, regardless of paint color. And only one was black, and that's the car that I ended up getting.
Wow.
And it's beautiful. So now every time when I'm in the car and I make like a silly comment, I say knock on wood, I can knock on the wood in the car.
Yeah.
It's very nice. It's got brushed aluminum accents, and everything in the car feels very premium and well put together. Nothing like squeaks or creaks or anything like that. And I've heard that they age well as well. It got a revamp from 2022 to 2023. In 2022, they had like a trackpad that you use to control the touch screen. And in 2023, they replaced that with the wireless phone charger. And that's a big deal because I was looking at a blue 2022, and that's one of the ones that I almost bought. But it only had one cup holder up front with the touchpad. And the 2023 is a huge upgrade with 2 cup holders up front and the wireless charger. So I'm glad I wound up getting the 23. It's got bright LED lights both in the car and outside of the car. The headlights are very nice, but also the interior lights are very nice. And the lights behind the sun visor, you pull the sun visor down, and then when you open the little mirror, the light overhead turns on. It's very classy, and they're super bright.
The E39 has that too. I like it.
Yeah, they're super cool. It's got an
when it works.
When it works. I'm fucking so hoping that nothing happens to this car ever. I never want to deal with it. Or not right now. I've had a lot of car problems lately. I'm not in the mood.
I hear
it's got an automatically dimming rear view mirror, both in the inside the car, and the side view mirrors are auto dimming as well. It's got garage programmable buttons in the rear view mirror, and there's a button to turn on or off the auto dimming on your center rear view mirror in the car. It's got automatically folding side view mirrors. So when you park the car, it turns in. You can do it manually if you want to. And they automatically rotate down when you go into reverse. Not that you need it because there's a rear camera. That's driving the Lexus and then swapping into my mom's Kia. When my mom's Kia is a 2018, Grace's was 2019. The 2023 camera quality blows those out of the water like fucking nothing else, right?
Yeah.
Um, so it's very nice. I've got side view mirror defrosters in the doors. So if it's cold outside, you can turn that on and you can see your side view mirrors. And there's heat inside the mirrors too, which is
Mhm.
interesting. Um, it's got a 3 seat setting memory, so you can set 3 different seat settings, preferred seat settings. It's got one of the power, like electrical power steering wheels, so you can
Yeah.
like flip a little switch and move it instead of like pulling a lever. Um, which is my preference because now every time I press my seat memory, it moves my seat and my steering wheel exactly where I want it. Um, it's got metal paddle shifters, not like plastic ones that the lower models have. So it's an upgrade. It's got 10 direction seats, so forward, backward, tilt up, tilt down, back, and lumbar on both of the front seats. Um, and it's got the most satisfying buttons I've ever felt in any vehicle. Specifically, the air conditioning switches are tiny little like toggle switches, and when you press them, they're made of like aluminum, and when you press them and click them, they're super satisfying, and the screen moves the numbers up and down. It doesn't just change it. It looks like it's cycling like an
Oh,
computer.
yeah.
And the ace and the volume button is a dial, and it's the smoothest dial I've ever felt. I
Nice.
love the switches in this car. And importantly, some of the newer models of Lexus have everything, or maybe not Lexus, maybe other cars. Your AC settings and radio settings and everything is through the touch screen. Not this one. This one has buttons, so you don't have to worry about like if the touch screen is on the fritz, you can still change the temperature in the car, and it feels better for me to have physical buttons. Um, it's got the wireless phone charger, like I mentioned. It's got Bluetooth auto connect, so every time I get in the car, it connects to my phone without needing to be plugged in. Um, it's got an 8-inch high sensitivity touchscreen. They do make a version with a larger screen. That's one of the upgrade features that my car doesn't have. And I kind of wish that it did have it, but at the same time, it feels just like my phone touchscreen. Grace's was really old and you had to like press it really hard to get it to
Yeah.
do anything. This is very nice. So even though it's the smaller one, I'm okay with it. It's not about the size, it's about what you do with it. It's got Apple CarPlay. It has a Wi-Fi hotspot in the car, so you can do your laptop work while you drive, which is crazy. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
It's got a really nice sound system. It's the nicest sound system that I've heard in a vehicle, aftermarket or otherwise. It's got microphones right above the sunshade, so when you're talking on
Oh,
the
that's
phone,
nice.
super high quality. I called Grace the other day, and I had to switch from my phone to the car, and she didn't know when I had switched.
Oh, that's nice.
It's very nice. It's got a real analog clock in the dash. It's
Mm.
brushed aluminum backlit. And supposedly this is the last 2025 is the last year they're doing those clocks. They're going to get rid of them apparently. But I think it's very luxury and very high class. It's got a sunroof. So it's got an automatic sunroof that can crack open or open all the way. Um, they do have a higher trim model with the moonroof too in the back, which would have been cool. But again, I've never owned a car with a sunroof. The Camaro has T-tops, but you have to take the T-top out to get rid of the sunshade. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to have it. It's got 2 cup holders in the front and 2 in the rear, and that's a big deal because Grace's car only had 2 cup holders in the front. It didn't have the middle thing in the back that folded down.
Yeah.
This does, which makes me very happy. It's got a two-way center console lid, so the driver can open it and the passenger can open it from their side, which is cool. And it opens to the side, not straight up like most of them do, which is like you have to always use one hand to keep it open while you do
Yeah.
so. With this one, you open it with one and use both hands. Um, it's got charging ports in the center console with routing that goes out of it. So I just keep my radar wire in there all the time. And then when I start the car, I just route it out. There's like a little hole in the center console that leads out.
Mm.
And the car came with floor mats for all 4 seats in the front. Didn't come with a mat for the trunk, although I'd like one. I think I'm going to get an all-weather like rubber one for the trunk. But the ones up front are nice carpet. Interestingly, it didn't the carpets have pins that lock them into place. There are not pins in the front driver's seat of my car. So I spoke with Lexus of Melbourne to have them ordered. Apparently they're on back order, like nationwide shortage.
Mm.
And so I got them ordered and the guy accidentally ordered 1 set. So I'm still waiting on the second set to come in to actually install the carpet. So I still have the dealer plastic on the driver's side, but it's no big deal. Came with the carpets and those are like $150. So I'm glad I don't have to pay for them.
There you go.
The drive mode, so sport, normal, or eco, usually it's a button down by the center console, like the shifter. But Lexus recognized that, or Toyota recognized that that's a problem because if you're switching to sport mode, it's probably because you need some power pretty quickly and you're taking your eyes off the road. And so with this car, there's a dial. It's like a twist knob, like a box
Oh, yeah.
that's in front of you behind the steering wheel.
Ferrari.
Yeah, so you don't have to take your eyes off the road to switch. It's fucking really cool. And the traction control is up there too.
Oh,
So,
nice.
like, yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's got a heated steering wheel. It's got heated and cooled seats. And interestingly,
Conditioned seats are very nice.
dude, they're very nice. And interestingly, I didn't know this until I was watching. There's a guy on YouTube that like specializes in working on only Toyotas and Lexuses.
Mhm.
But this is one of the first cooled seats or ventilated seats that doesn't blow cold air at you. It's a vacuum that pulls hot air
Yeah.
off of you, and supposedly that cools you down 40% faster. And I think I have
I
thought,
believe it.
yeah. And there's an auto setting where it will read your body temperature and the temperature of the cabin, and it'll pick whether to heat or cool the seat and how much based on that.
Oh, wow, that's wild.
It's super cool. It's got the brake hold feature, so at stoplights you can just like take your foot off the brake and it's not going to go anywhere, and then
Oh.
touch the gas and it goes. Which I don't use super often, but I have felt myself using it a couple times when I had to like reach into the back seat or something, and I didn't want to like keep my foot on the brake or put it in park. It's got the rear view camera, like I talked about. It's got lane keep assist, so it'll keep you between the lanes on the
Mhm.
highway, and it's got adaptive cruise control, so it'll look at the car in front of you and then gauge
That's the thing I miss most about my mom's Subaru,
Mhm.
the newer Subaru, dude. Fucking on long drives, the auto follow
Yeah.
cruise control with the lane keep assist.
Yeah, dude, I genuinely think that saved our lives on the way home from Miami the day we
Oh, yeah, I will.
because I was genuinely delirious driving.
I've done a 16-hour stint doing that, and I would have not been able to do that in any other car.
Yeah, I'm so happy it has that.
Yeah.
And a couple times I've gotten a little closer than I would have liked to people braking suddenly, not with the lane keep assist, this is different. But in the Kias, the auto emergency braking feature, it makes the noise and brakes for you. This just makes the noise. It doesn't brake for you. At least that I've experienced. I'm trying not to get too close to people because I don't want to fuck this car up. It's also got blind spot monitoring. So there's a little light on your side view mirror. So if someone's in your blind spot, the light turns on. If you turn your blinker on, it beeps at you if there's someone there. Oh, I have written here it's got toggleable emergency braking, so I must have already toggled it off and forgotten. And it's got curtain airbags, so the A-pillars have airbags in them that go off. This has a 5-star safety rating from the National Highway Association, whatever. So it's a very safe car. Oh, here, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, 5 stars overall. I had it written down.
There you go.
So that's the interior. The exterior, it has remote start, which the dealership didn't even know about. I had read online that some of these had the feature of a remote start from the fob.
Yeah, you double click it or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I was at the dealership, I was like, does this one have the remote start? They were like, no, not this one. I was like, bummer, I wanted that one. Later on, I found out you just press the lock button and then hold it, and then it remote starts the car for you. And I found that out 2 days after owning the car, and I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. So now, dude, from my bedroom, I can start the car through the window, which is sick. So
Cool.
I'm super happy with that. It's got keyless entry and exit. So if the key is in my pocket or in my bag and I walk up to the car, as I put my hand on the door handle, it unlocks for me. And then when I'm leaving, if I just touch the top of the door handle, it locks for me.
Yeah.
That's the gimmick that when I bought the car, I was like, I'll probably never use it. I'm a big key guy. I use it. It's my favorite feeling in the world.
It's nice.
Dude, it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's got what Lexus calls intelligent high beam headlamps, which basically means you can have your high beams on, and when it sees the reflection of someone else's headlights or like a road sign, it automatically turns the high beams off. My dad's car has this. My dad's car doesn't have automatic rain sensing windshield wipers. Again, a feature that I didn't think I would care about until I used it. And I don't
They're
even
nice.
I can't believe I don't even have to think about adjusting the speed or tempo of the windshield wipers because it adjusts the speed based on how much rain is on your windshield. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rearview mirrors automatically tilt down when you go into reverse. Heated side view mirrors, not just the window, but also the mirror itself. Auto dimming side mirrors, like I said. It's got something called cornering lights. So at low speeds, if you're turning the wheel more than 90 degrees, there's a light that turns on the whole side of the car. So the headlights don't turn with you. There's a separate light that turns on.
It's like a fog light.
Yeah, it's so cool. And when I'm looking at the bumper, I can't see where the light is. I don't know where it is, but I can see it turn on when I'm driving around the roundabout at night. It's super cool. It's got door floor lights, so when you open the door, it projects the Lexus emblem on the ground, which is like the bougiest shit. I didn't know it had it until I bought the car. It's got door sill and trunk sill lights. So when you open it up on the sill, there's like a metal plaque that says Lexus that lights up at night in the doors and the trunk. That's super cool.
Nice.
It's got indoor lights on all 4 doors. So even the back doors, when you open it up, there's lights in the door that's like light up that area for you. It's got bright trunk lights when you open your trunk at night. And also I had to open the trunk for an open house right after it rained. And in the Camaro, when I open the trunk, it pisses all the water conveniently into the trunk and onto your back seat for you. And when I opened the Lexus trunk, I didn't even think about it. All the water started pouring off the back of the trunk. And I was like, oh shit, perfectly into the ravine they have set up for you there to catch the water.
That's Lexus for you.
It's incredible, dude.
Yeah.
It's got a huge trunk. It fits the open house signs and all our real estate stuff exactly the way I was hoping the ES would over the IS. So that's perfect. The trunk has a button like in the car, or they have an automatic feature. When I press the button, it opens all the way up. It doesn't just pop, it opens all the way up. But there's a premium feature that I thought I had that I didn't have, where if you walk up behind the car and you kick your foot under the bumper, it opens for you. I don't have that. I wish I did. I also wish I had the power rear sunshade. Not that I would ever use it, but when I'm parked, but still it's cool. It's got cargo net hard points for you to net things down. Mine doesn't come with a cargo net, but I plan on getting one eventually. It comes with a spare tire, but for some reason, the last owner took all the tools out of there. So I've got to buy a jack and wrench and stuff like that, but it comes with the spare. It's not a full-size spare. It's a smaller one still.
Yeah.
Some newer cars I've learned don't have that, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And
New Miatas come with a fix-a-flat kit.
no spare tire.
No, none at all.
Interesting.
They come with a fix-a-flat kit.
Huh.
Which is like a goop that you inject
Yeah.
into the tire and hope it seals.
Huh. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
And it's super sound dampening. It's got paneling all underneath the car. So like there's access panels that you take off to get to the oil or whatever, but it's flat under the car and it's super damping. Riding in my mom's Kia, which has historically for me been like the nicer car that I get to ride around in because it's quieter compared to the Lexus on highway at highway speeds. I don't have to talk above a whisper for anybody to hear me in the Lexus.
Yeah.
It's noticeably improved. Overall, I'm just so happy with it.
Sounds awesome, man.
Yeah, the window stick. Thank you. The window sticker had the MSRP, so new from dealership in 2023 at $48,200. And I bought it for $33,900 at 20,000 miles with a full service history.
Wow.
Zero
Good deal.
issues with it. Yeah, great deal. And so the dealership wanted to charge me, when I walked in, they were like, it's going to be $43,000. I was like, no, it's not. On your website it says 33. We're getting down to that number. So that's what I had to work them down for. And of all the cars, like the 40 some odd cars I was looking at in my list, the average price was $35,800 with an average of 24,000 miles. So I bought a car that was under mileage and under price of my average.
Nice.
With a full service history, which is a big deal for me.
Yeah.
And I'm still 28,000 miles away from hitting my factory warranty. So I still have factory warranty if anything goes wrong for the next 28,000, which should be like a year for me, or probably more, honestly. Yeah. So that's my new car.
That's awesome. I want to see it after the podcast. Yeah. Take a look.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah. Dude, honestly,
it makes me miss that fucking 335 that we sold, honestly. That had so many but the gadgets and gizmos.
But that one was turbocharged, and
it was.
We'll have issues eventually.
Yeah, it would have.
Knock on wood. And again,
it would have had like the Beamer that I have right now is like $500 here, $500 there. That car would have been like $4,000 here, $4,000 there.
Exactly. And I'm praying that this Lexus has all those premium features. Like,
yeah, the difference is that they fucking work,
but doesn't break. I'm so
the difference with Japanese is that it doesn't fucking break.
Yeah. So I'm really happy with the price. My car payment is $580 a month.
It's not too bad.
It's not too bad. Honestly, it's more than I was expecting because ChatGPT set my expectations at $300 a month for a lease. So $580 is way more than I was anticipating. But that's about how much I spend at the Kava Bar every month. And so I've just decided, I was like, okay, by circumstance, I'm only getting my loyalty and tipping. There's nothing else I'm doing. So I'm capped at like $100 a month at the Kava Bar.
I think I sent you a screenshot, but ever since I applied for my business credit card, and I gave them my income, I gave them was 200 grand, because when you take no, but when you take the average per month and then you extrapolate it, it's like 192, got something like that. So I gave them 200 grand because they don't ask for fucking expenses when you get a fucking credit card.
It's income, not expenses.
What's your gross income? I'm like, oh, fuck it, like whatever,
Yeah.
So like 200 was genuine, and I had proof for it.
Yeah.
But ever since that point, and I got like this big credit limit and all this stuff with this like added income, I keep getting ads for BMW of Melbourne, and I don't get like fucking base model 1 series. I get like jump it to the new M4 comp for $17.50 a month. I'm like, I ain't fucking afford that shit. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Dude, it's like I get like anything from like new M2 to like new new 5 series to like M4 comp, and it's like all 1,100 to 1,700 a month. That's like, I ain't fucking getting any of this shit.
That's my rent.
I mean, I enjoy looking at it in the advertisement, but I ain't fucking getting this.
Dude, yeah, it's crazy. I keep getting ads for Acura of Melbourne, and all of the ads, I play YouTube videos while I take a shower so I can listen to stuff while it's going on, and I keep getting these ads in the shower, and it's like lease a brand new 2025 Acura with heated and cooled seats for as low as $720 a month, and I'm like, damn. And
you remember the fucking days when like we were in high school and like car leases were like 200?
No, I didn't know anything about car leases until a week ago.
I remember helping my mom and Baba get a new car, and I remember them bargaining from 250 to 220 for a brand new Acura.
That's crazy.
With 36,000 miles, 3-year lease.
That's crazy, dude. That's a good deal.
Yeah, that's what it used to be, man. Now it's like, what?
Just buy the car, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They
didn't get a new lease. They just kept the car because they were like, anything we get is going to be 2.5 times more expensive than what we have now.
Exactly, right?
It's crazy.
And when the $720 a month for the Acura came up, I was like, dude, how is our car payment so much less than that? And Grace was like, you don't understand how expensive car payments are.
Yeah.
But I'm paying what most people do for a standard car payment for a much less car.
Yeah.
But we're fortunate enough to have the knowledge about cars that we do, and for me, the Northrop Grumman interest rate that I
that's a great interest rate, because I looked at loans for a while, and I mean, everything I got offered was 11%.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't call any of my banks. I just like scanned through Intuit, because they'll offer you a bunch, and everything was like 9.5 to like 13 or whatever.
That's what I did for all my online banks. I went in person to Northrop because I was at work, so
Yeah.
I've got time on my lunch break. But
Right.
yeah, no, I'm very pleased with everything, the way it worked out. And I think I can say with a high degree of confidence that it will be a reliable car. And I took your BMW the service schedule for like every 5,000 miles. And then I went into Lexus.com and I set up everything.
Oh, nice.
I included a bunch of extra shit too, because I'm going to go all out to be like as serviceable for this car as I can. So I included stuff in there that's like, check brake lines for leaks. It's like, yeah, no shit. But if the factory says it, it's going in my spreadsheet and I'm doing it. And I started a new spreadsheet. This is what I was doing when you stopped by the bar the other day. For the service history of the car so far. The earliest service was at 16 miles. There were 16 miles on the car when Lexus of North Miami serviced it, and I have the service report for that. And every service since then until I took ownership.
That's awesome.
So I don't think, I might never sell this car, but if I ever do, it's going to have like a full maintenance history from start to finish. So yeah, I'm super happy with it.
Yeah.
And I think I can even afford it. But
it's great.
Yeah, that's my life update.
Congrats.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to show you the
It's
car.
like weird to like hear about your new car. I feel like every 6 months I make a bad financial decision on something too old and too German. And like you just get to enjoy me suffer through the pain of it and enjoy it for the 15 seconds that it works right. And then it's like, oh man, Mason got a new car and he was smart about it. Holy shit, this is great.
Dude, I didn't feel smart about it though, because as like once the Kia broke down, I was like, okay, fuck, I have 5 days to figure this out, and I have 5 days to figure out where I'm getting this money from, right? I'm up for a promotion at work, but God knows if or when that'll kick in. And even then, I'm gonna have to give something up. And so I'm cutting back on expenses at the bar. I'm cutting back on fast food expenses and everything. So I'm tracking my finances to make sure I can afford it. And I can afford it.
Yeah. I just got
It's just
friggin'
less
Axis
comfortable.
power car disease or something, and just fucking like old German and Japanese is all I friggin' want. I
Yeah.
don't know why. It's like Porsche, BMW, Miata. Let's go.
Dude, I keep telling Grace, like, when people ask about the car, they're like, "Oh, cool, good choice," and I'm like, Are you not as surprised as I am? Because I'm shocked that I bought a car that's built more recently than 2010. Like,
It is wild.
I am
Yeah.
shocked. I'd never have seen myself owning a car that was built like in the same 20 years as the current date. So
Yeah.
the fact that I even entertained it and then went for it is
No,
still
it's awesome.
surprising to me.
Was that the car I saw at Pound?
Yeah,
Was it?
the car.
I saw saw it when I was pulling up. Well, I pulled up once, and then Sammy saw some fireworks, and she was like, "Can we go see the fireworks?" And like in my head, I was like, "They're gonna be gone as soon as I pull out of the lot." And I was like, "Okay, fine, we'll go see the fireworks." And so I pull out of the lot, and sure, she was like, "Where are the fireworks going?" I'm like, "Sammy, they set them off. They're gone." And she was like, "No, like, can you turn around?" And I'm like in the center of the traffic light, and she's like, "Can you just go right?" And I'm like, "No, I cannot cut across 3 lanes of traffic in order to go right here." And so we had to go down a gas station, make a U-turn, go back. And so then by the time we got back, I was like, I saw the Lexus, and it was backed in, and I was like, "That's Mason's."
It's so funny because Grace had taken that car home to give Simba CBD because he is scared of the fireworks. So we emptied out one of the kitchen cabinets and put blankets in there for him to hide in and gave him CBD to chill out. And when she came back, she backed the car in. And she's doing when we bought the car, I was like, listen, okay, so I own this car and I'm happy to pay for you to be insured to drive it every day. I'm happy to have you drive it every day, but you've got to follow like the things that I ask you to do, right? So when I ask you to park on the west side of the building so that it doesn't get heavy sun in the morning, because I don't want the interior to age, I want you to do that. I don't want you to leave stuff in the car. I want you to keep it clean like I do the Camaro. Don't leave your personal belongings or trash or anything in there. I want to keep it nice. You know, if someone gets an fender bender or anything, you have to call the police every time and you have to take pictures and video. Like you have to be as anal about the car as I would be, because I'm paying for it. And she's done a fucking awesome job at everything I've asked her to do. She's doing fantastic. And so I already bought a sunshade for it. I'm going to get it tinted. I'm thinking about getting a paint protection film put on it, but that's expensive and I'm not sure if I want to pay for that.
You know what? I'll give you something to throw on it. I got a bottle of ceramic coat that was relatively expensive that I didn't really use much, if any, ever. I'll throw that over to you, and while it's clean, you can give it a good wash. It's an easy apply. It's a spray on, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And it lasts 6 months. No,
Yeah.
I'll throw that over to you. You can hit it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what's on the car right now. I'm taking it in Wednesday to Tintology in Melbourne. They're the guys who did Al's Corvette.
Let me know how they do, because I got to get that window tinted on the Beamer.
Yeah, they did Al's Corvette really well.
Okay.
And so I'm taking the car there to get a quote for tint and the paint protection film. I am going to get it tinted by them regardless of price because tint is that important to me.
Yeah.
But the PPF I'm not sure about yet because it's still, I mean, the car's only 2 years old. So whatever kind of clear coat they have for factories.
I'm going to show up and I'm going to be like, I need this one window matched to the other ones because I can't fucking, like, just make it basic and make it look right.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm getting a specialty plate too. When I went down to fix the Camaro, I picked up the metal plate from the dealership.
Are you gonna go like ES350 like I do with the Beamers, like the make and model?
Yeah. It's gonna match the Camaro. It's gonna say 8-speed V6.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm gonna flex the V6. But I want the Save Our Springs, the blue scuba diver plate. And then I want a license plate cover for it because I don't want the plate itself getting nasty. And finding a quality license plate cover, like with the glass or plastic protector, is so hard to find. The only quality one I can find is an exposed carbon fiber frame with like a plastic cover. That looks high quality. I don't like the idea of having a carbon fiber frame, but if that's all that's going to keep my license plate clean, then that's what I'm going to have to do. Also, the dealer took like fucking roofing screws and cross-threaded those into the license plate bracket holes. So I spent 15 minutes at Ace yesterday trying to guess what the thread pitch and pattern of the license plate bolt is, and I can't figure it out.
You have to get license plate bolts.
Maybe because they help me do that.
They are. Amazon should have them. We can look them up together after this.
Yeah.
But the thread pitch, it's fucking so stupid. The thread pitch for license plate bolts specifically is not a standard anything. It's not a standard taper of the thread. It's not a standard thread pitch. It's not a standard size. it is specifically like license plate bolts.
I
They are
can't wait.
so dumb.
I can't wait to show you these screws in the back of the car.
Mhm.
When I show you the car, I'll take some video and we can like B-roll it over
Sure.
this. But the screws are fucking retarded. Like
Yeah.
they're bad, right? Like, yeah. Anyways, okay, that's it. That's all I've got on the car. So I'm
Cool.
glad.
Well, congrats. We'll
Okay.
see it after this.
We've got an actual podcast to do.
Yes,
Are you
we do.
prepared?
Yeah, I
Okay.
have some.
All right. Okay, so our theme today is on lessons that we've learned from our early years in business. So my little intro here is an Alex Ramosi quote, which goes, "People work, sacrifice, then get rich, then get time, then fill their time with weird routines, then forget how they got rich in the first place, then tell others the weird routines made them rich rather than what they actually did, which is whatever it took, not a 3-hour morning routine."
Yeah.
This podcast episode is designed to be a living record of our lived experiences to both remind us in the future of where we came from and to inspire anyone who relates to us today. In an effort to be hyper vigilant of the previously mentioned trend Alex Ramosi describes, we're going to take our podcast to reflect on some of the key lessons we've learned so far in our early business careers. We'll start with our first segment, which covers the first hard lesson we learned. I feel like usually the first time you experience something, you remember it more clearly than anything else, especially if it was something difficult to get through. But honestly, it took me a good amount of time to think and define what this particular lesson was for me. Did you find the same thing, or did it like come to mind right away?
Um, it took me a while to think about it because I was trying to think back to when we started in business as like my first big business lesson, but I don't think I learned like a big lesson during that period.
Yeah.
I think I started to learn like probably a year after that is when I started to learn my first big lesson. And then I was like, oh shit, that was a I started to think about the big turning points for me.
Yep.
Where were the big turns? And that came to mind after some thinking and contemplation.
Hmm.
But do you want me to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, so the first big lesson that I had here is you have to be willing to sacrifice the things you never wanted to sacrifice. That was like the first big lesson that I had. And like the stuff that for me that fell into that box was like um going to Palhana less or spending less money at the bar. Quitting Kratom was a big financial thing for me, but it was also a hindrance in terms of like I felt like I needed it all the time. Like even with the nicotine stuff, I don't dial back on the weekends because like I don't really care. Like I have access to it and whatever. But at work, I'll do like 3-hour stints with none of it and whatever, and then I'll go on a break and whatever. So like in moderation to ensure that if I want to, I can go without it.
Right.
Stuff like that. Like that was something like, oh man, I love going to the bar. I don't want to sacrifice that, and that's something I sacrifice. Or getting food out to eat or something like that. Or just like small money managerial things that like I enjoyed doing or enjoyed going out and experiencing that I had to cut out, and like I never wanted to cut that shit out.
Right.
That process is continuously evolving for me. Like I'm continuously trying to figure out how I can improve my time management and stuff like that. But that was the first big lesson, is like realizing that in business, you have to sacrifice things that you never wanted to sacrifice in the first place in order to get to where you want to go.
It's a hard lesson, obviously, because you're getting rid of things that you are not comfortable with getting rid of.
Yeah,
You don't
and
want to let them go.
And what makes it tough too is that a lot of people that are not in the business space are a constant reflection and reminder of the appeal of those things.
Yeah.
Like I have a coworker who asks me like weekly, like, you got to get the Porsche running. You got to get the Porsche running. Come on, man. When are you going to bring the Porsche? I'm like, bro, trust me. When I look at it in my garage every day, I want to drive it more than you do. Like, trust me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like that, it's like those things and those sacrifices are tough. Like honestly, like the BMW work the other week was like a fuck, I don't want to deal with this thing. But it was also really nice to have the excuse to like work on a car.
Right.
Because I actually really enjoy it when I get into it, even though like it can be a real headache sometimes and it does piss me off. Like to actually like do some work on the car and see it better afterwards is like super rewarding. And I really love that.
Yeah.
And so like that experience was really nice, but like I could have that experience every day if I wanted to, if I just wanted to live like a simple life and work on the Porsche. Like I could just save. Like, I've sacrificed so many of my expenses that I was doing the accounting between February 3rd and June 1st, my total expenditures on business that my income from the business did not cover was $9,500. So that's so essentially I'm in the whole $9,500.
from February, and that's including the purchase of the new store, the Sweet Codes.
Yeah, so purchase of the new store along with, a bunch of subscriptions that I put on credit cards, stuff like that. Like the store is overall profitable from like an advertisement to profit side, but
Right.
like in terms of all the subscriptions, it's not covered fully. But
Right.
I've been able to keep up with that stuff relatively speaking. Yes, I have some debt, but I've been able to chip at it, right? And so that means in this 5-month period, I've sacrificed and figured out how to probably save, let's say, $6,000. So that's like over $1,000 a month that I figured out how to save when before this period, I was almost living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
So I've cut out a lot. And so if I think about that, it's like, well, if I had, $6,000 accrued or $7,000 accrued from February until now, like I could have totally fixed up the Porsche and fixed up the Miata and fixed up the Beamer and done all that shit and just
Right.
lived like an easy, an easy side of that life. But and so that's totally feasible for me, but I have something bigger that I'm trying to chase.
Mhm.
And so, sacrificing that stuff is like the first big lesson that I learned. And, the people around you, like the guy who asked me about the Porsche all the time is a reflection of those things that I've sacrificed in a way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But what about you? What do you think your first big lesson was?
My first, I have it written as my first hard lesson.
Yeah, hard lesson.
Like difficult to stomach, kind of. Or difficult to like comprehend. And I think it took me a long time to try to figure out what this one was, because I don't very often encounter things that are like difficult for me to understand, or like takes me a long time to see the big picture or whatever. But I think the hardest shift for me is that relying on others is a double-edged sword. So it's not clearly defined because it happened over time, right? It took me a while to figure this out because it didn't happen on Tuesday the 5th. It happened over the course of like 3 years. And it's because it was a lifestyle shift for me, right? So in terms of relying on others, the pros are that you can rely on people to get things done, right? So for Kahuna, if something needed to be done and I couldn't do it, I could rely on you to get it done. So for an example, in October of 2023, I flew to Wisconsin in the middle of us baking. Like we were halfway done with getting done what we needed to do, and I had to go to the airport, and I like dropped everything, and you picked it up and took it from there, right? So huge pro. In real estate, if something needs to be done and I can't do it because I'm at work, I can rely on Grace getting it done. So like when we were closing on that house a few weeks ago, or like a month and a half ago now, she was handling all of the scheduling of the inspectors and stuff like that, the lender and everything, while I was at the office. So hugely helpful. But the cons of relying on others is that if you rely on someone to get something done, like if you have to rely on them and they don't like execute to that level, now you're fucked. So it's kind of a reliance thing where it's like it's awesome to have that to lean on in times of need, but if you are too dependent on it, then you fall short of your goals, right? So for example, with Kahuna, if something needed to be done and I couldn't do it without you, then I'm left with some pretty few options, right? So like when we were doing the kava bar and you stepped out of that project, it's like, okay, I was reliant on you to get that done. I couldn't do it without you. So then I'm exposing myself to the risk of not being able to do that. Similarly, we would schedule meetings with Tyler and he would show up late consistently or reschedule meetings last second, and he was challenging to get a hold of. So when it came to funding, there was little to no information available and we couldn't rely on that. Similarly, our shared experience with our SAE team, all the team members were not as committed as we are, and they refused to put in the same amount of effort as us. So we didn't have an aero package even started by senior showcase time, right? Bro, yeah. So I think that's a difficult lesson for me to learn because I have been taught through my years of rowing that you can always rely on your teammates, full stop, because everybody else is as deluded as you are and as committed to the bit, right? And so you can always rely on your teammates, and that makes you think that nothing's impossible. So if you want to do, at one point we were training for a summer regatta just for fun. And the only time we could get the boat on the water was from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. on a Thursday. And we did it. Like it's because we're all fucking insane. We're all stupid, crazy. And so we all did it. And you can always rely on people to sign up for those things. And so then when you get in the real world and other people are not as insane or have other priorities or are not as reliable, you can't rely on them all the time. And so then I have to shift my expectations to expect to not have any help at all and then appreciate it when you do have it. But be capable of doing it all on your own, or have a contract that basically locks someone into having to do it, right? So like with the car dealership, when they gave me the courtesy contract, I was like, I need in writing that you're not going to fuck me over on this, because
Right.
I know you make money if I finance with you, and I don't want you to have that. Um,
Yeah.
so you can't do it all on your own, but you don't have to. In business, you may need to do more on your own. Um, if not, then you have to be highly selective with who you do it with, and why they're doing it as well.
Yeah.
Try to align your goals with the people you're working with.
Um, I don't have this on my sheet, but something to kind of piggyback off of that too is in business, like you really, when you're starting out, you really have to understand how to be everyone that you hope to hire one day.
Right.
Like I have to learn how to be an accountant. I fucking hate accounting. I have to learn how to be an accountant. I have to learn how to be an advertiser. I have to learn how to be a website builder. I have to learn how to be a product researcher. I have to learn how to be a fucking, a sales rep or
Right.
a consultant on email chains, like all this shit. It's like, well, fuck yeah, I guess I just got to learn how to do this right,
Yeah.
and like that's in every business. Like when you're just starting out, there are all of these great services available that one day you can push off to people who have better expertise than you do. But initially starting out, like you got to at least hit the 80% basics on a broad range of shit,
Yeah.
and that's tough.
Yeah, you've got to be able to have the conversation with everybody on your team and understand what they talk about, which I
Yeah.
think is what makes Elon Musk effective, because he's
Mhm.
worked every role in SpaceX, right?
Yeah, and Tesla, yeah.
At Tesla, yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, the lesson here is that I need to more clearly define and understand when I have to rely on someone and clearly dictate that to them. So for example, when Grace moved to Melbourne and had to quit the prison because they wanted her to be locked in a room alone with prisoners, and she had to quit that job, she started working at Kraken, the kava bar, and she was like, "This isn't enough money. I have to do a different job in order to pay the bills. What do I do?" And we kind of had the collective decision of, okay, do you go get an office job and then show up 9 to 5 every day and pay the bills while I try to make this business thing work out? Or do I put my business thing on hold for a while for you to go get your real estate license and learn how to work on your own time and pursue that? And that's, a much bigger risk from my perspective, because I'm footing all the bills and staying with my 9 to 5 and not fully committing to the business bit until she gets this stuff worked out,
Yeah.
when it would be a safer bet to do the 9 to 5. But I know that she is so much more capable than she gives herself credit for. And sitting at the 9 to 5 it's consistent and it will give you the same results every day. But I know it's going to crush her spirit, and she's capable of doing a lot more with the real estate space if she has the option, right?
Yeah.
So I very clearly dictated to her, I was like, hey, some months are going to be super tight. And if you do not perform, we don't eat some days. So I am reliant on you to get this done and do it to the right capacity. And she did, and she's doing great.
Yeah.
But I had to be really clear with her on the amount of reliance that I had on her and vice versa, which I think is a good result of having learned that lesson from early days, right?
Yeah.
So to close out this section, I've got a Hormozy quote that says, "I deserve nothing and I'm grateful for everything." And that's
Mm.
kind of like what I mentioned earlier, but
Yeah.
anything else on your hard lesson?
Not the first one. No.
Cool.
No.
So the second segment is on our most important lessons so far. And the most difficult lessons are not always the most important. That's the discrepancy between segment 1 and segment 2. And so this is the most important lesson. And that sprang to mind for me pretty quickly. And it actually stems from our senior showcase. So for some backstory, the senior showcase is at the end of your time in engineering at college. You do one big project that showcases all of the information you have as a senior graduating. And so our senior project was the Formula SAE car. And there was not much at our table. We had the car, and then we had like a shitty fucking acrylic box with fuel foam in it to try to show that. I don't even know what Church was trying to show with that. It was a nightmare. We didn't have much on the table. We had our fucking 300-page report printed out that no one was going to read, and like that was it. Our car wasn't overly impressive either. We had paint on and in the intake. We had holes in our welds. We had basically a seized differential because of how hard we had to force it into the bracket.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And we had no aero package. It was like an open exposed frame. And so it was a pretty weak showing compared to the effort that we put in that year. And a Northrop Grumman judge came over and he voted for us best in mechanical engineering. And he pulled us aside and told us this because he was like, "You're not going to win anything. This looks like dog shit. So no one else is going to vote for you. But I'm voting for you for best in mechanical engineering, not because we had the best project, but because we had the best management program. Because when the judges would come by and ask us about our stuff, we would pull up our laptop and show them our Gantt charts on our schedule timeline and our financing and our fundraising and our CDRs and whatever. We had our file folders organized. We had email communications organized. We had a work breakdown structure written out. We had a risk mitigation strategy for if we didn't make shit in time for comp. And he said, hey, if you can accurately estimate how long something will take, you can project how much it will cost. And that's the single most valuable attribute you can have in your entire career in any field.
Mhm.
And so the lesson that I got from that, and this is the most important lesson that I've learned so far, is that everything costs more money, takes more time, and requires more effort than you think it does.
Yeah. My most important lesson so far is very similar. It's also taken from an Alex Hormozy quote. It's it takes a lot of hard work, and then it's even harder than that in reference to a business. And it's like, I got into e-commerce and I knew it was going to be a lot of work, and it's a lot of work, and then it's more than that, and then a bit more than that, and I still haven't made it.
Right.
And so it's definitely tough. You know what I mean? I can't reiterate how happy I am to not be at work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. That is like such a game changer for me at this point, because it's just like it's so tough to find the time when your schedule's like that, and just like being at work is so atrocious anyway. And the crazy part is like I'm in a space where 90% of the time I don't do anything but wait around for
Right.
something to happen testing wise. And then we get a bunch of stuff happening testing wise, and there's a ton of shit, and then you sit around, and then there's a bunch of shit. But it's like in this space, like I can't be like on Google, I can't be doing other work, I can't be on my phone. It's just like literally waiting, and then you get called up, and then you like work a bunch of shit, and then you wait, and then you work a bunch of shit. Like it's just, you know, but all in all, the most important lesson is it takes a lot of hard work, and then it's even harder than that.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think about both of our most important lessons, what's interesting is that you can learn the lesson by listening to this podcast, but to master and apply the lesson takes years. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody has this actually mastered. And even when you do master it, it's only for a specific field, right?
Yeah.
And so
David Goggins.
we're having like a huge fucking issue with Space Coast Crew right now, because the board members that didn't like my Reddit post about Misha, have staged a coup to overtake the board and kick out the sitting president, who is the only other person with rowing experience on the board.
Yeah.
So now all the parents that are upset that their kids aren't in the fastest boat, have essentially taken control of the team.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest issues with that, apart from it being an actual coup and not following any of the rules or guidelines or wish of the membership, we had a meeting last week in which all of the membership, we had over 60 members online and in person, paying parents say, we have no trust in this board. We want to revote. And the only person from the coup board who decided to attend, or I'm sorry, there were two there, but only one of them was speaking. Um, he basically just shunted everything off. He was like, I don't speak for the board. I'm going to have to talk to them later. And then he picked up his folding chair and left. But my biggest issue with them being in control of the team is that they don't have enough experience with the sport to understand how much effort or time or money it takes to get these things done. So like they wanted to hire new coaches in October last year, and you don't have enough experience with rowing to understand that that's detrimental to a team, right? That will rip a team apart. And you also don't have enough experience to hire coaches accurately. You don't know what a good coach is from a bad coach, so you don't know how to hire properly, even if you did have to rehire in October.
Yeah.
Like you don't have enough experience to understand how little experience you really have. And that goes toward the mastery lesson. Like I have a pretty firm handle on mastering this lesson when it comes to rowing because of the experience I have with it, but I've got fuck all when it comes to I don't know, like real estate, for example, right? I'm still green in real estate compared to rowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that also kind of ties into my third lesson. But do you have any?
I've got a segue if you want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The third lesson is the lesson that we're learning right now. So segment 2 we covered lessons that we've already learned, and now segment 3 is going to break down lessons that we're in the process of learning right now, or maybe a lesson that we're about to learn. Um, I clearly have been inspired by my hellacious week these past week, so it should come as no surprise that my current lesson relates to that. But before, I know your week has also been equally trying, and I'm curious to know if your lesson is at all related to the recent hours you've been working.
Um, I think not directly related. I think this is a longer term lesson that I'm learning, and it continuously hits me in the face, and I have to recognize it. But it's you think you know so much more than you do, and it just takes a lot of friggin' work to realize that you don't know much, and you have to keep an open mind throughout the business growth process.
Mhm.
And it's like, man, there's just so many times where I'm like, okay, I'll do this and I'll try this out and it'll work. Or I'll do this, I think it's bullshit and whatever, and then it suddenly takes off. Like there's like so much stuff that I think will work and then it completely flops. And then I just throw shit into the wind and sometimes it hits. And like this like that constant reminder of like, man, like I really don't know fucking anything.
Mhm.
Like that really hits me in the face all the time. And it's tough because like I start to get used to it a little bit and I kind of just like turn my brain off a little bit and I kind of just go through the steps and like I have a process, but like that building that process to like generate an advertisement or go through a testing period or figure out what to do about blah 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 payment. Like that process, like it's tough because sometimes I just want to like I want to feel like something is right or it's going to work. But like I've just learned too many times that you have to go through the process no matter what. And like that's a really tough lesson sometimes. And that's something that I'm actively learning and going through.
Mhm.
Is just like, man, like I think I know about this thing or that thing, but like I'm really still just so much learning and I am so much in the early phases of my development. Like I think I know this amount, but even that I don't know. And I got
Right.
to keep working through it. And that's been a tough lesson for me and something that like uh, consistently hits me in the face.
It's kinda like that, the Chris Williamson quote where he's like, "You don't know as much as you think you do, so refrain from having an opinion because the world
Mhm.
needs more signal, not more noise," right?
Yeah, similar to that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Or go.
kinda like you don't know as much as you think you know, and so don't try to have an opinion or teach like, recognize that you don't have the knowledge that you think you do yet. It's
Yeah.
the Midwit curve of, like, you don't even know how much you don't know yet, right?
Yeah.
Um,
But it's
not to
funny
get
because
into
it's
it.
like no, 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 but it's like I'm totally on that ride and I'm like trying to get there and trying to get there, but it's like the midwit curve for me is like it feels so long
Yeah,
to like start going up the bell part, you know what I mean? Like you could do all this work, all this work, all this work, and you're just like barely climbing.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And like that's how it feels at least. I think in retrospect though, I have learned a lot,
Mhm.
but there is so much to learn that it's so shocking to me that even though I put all this time and effort in, I'm like a sliver of the understanding that I need to have,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
think it's good to know though, right? Because
Mm.
it's like every guy in high school thinks they drive fast because they go
Right.
120 on the highway,
Yeah.
right? But the second that you learn that I fucking, the geometric racing line, right? You're like, "Oh, I didn't know about that." And then you
Yeah.
go, "Fuck, what else do I not know?" And then you realize how much there is that you don't know. That's an important place to be in because there's some people that go through their whole lives just thinking they're a fast driver and ignoring the minutia,
Yeah.
right? And so there are other people out there with drop shipping who are doing the same thing over and over again and not changing any variables and just waiting for it to work. And they aren't going to progress at all because they're not doing anything.
Yeah. That's why I'm working on building that big advertisement, which I can finally work on again. And
Right.
why I'm looking into the AI stuff is like, okay, this hasn't been working. What can I try that's new and different? Even
Right.
if I think it won't work, even if I think it's stupid and silly, maybe it's a waste of time, like it's still worth a shot.
Yeah,
Like I
absolutely.
realize like I don't know what I don't know, and even what I think I know, I probably don't know.
Yeah, but it's a
You
good
know?
perspective to have because it's being vigilant more so than being ignorant.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of like the phase that I'm going through,
Right.
that starting process. So
Yeah.
that's the lesson that I'm actively learning right now. But what do you have?
So scenario, it's 10 p.m. We're 3 hours away from home. Our checkpoint is 28 minutes away through congested Miami highway. You've only slept 3.5 hours. You've only eaten 1 apple today. You've only had 1 Celsius today. You have run out of water. The Camaro is overheating every 3 minutes. The roads are 60-mile-an-hour roads with no shoulder, only concrete walls, and people are moving 25 miles an hour. I'm missing turns because I have to take the route that gives me a shoulder or fork to stop on. 28 minutes turns into 1 hour and 10 minutes. I'm running out of gallons of water to top up the car. I can't see the water. I can see the water leaking out of the hose as I refill the radiator. When I pull over, Grace has to pull over right behind me, putting us both at risk of being hit in a fork in the road. As soon as I start my car, I have to move. Sometimes this leaves no gap for Grace to find behind me. Both our phones have 5% battery, so we can't call each other or leave the map open for too long. This, I think, is a traumatic experience. I think this is
It sounds atrocious.
a real, yeah. I wanted to cry, but couldn't because I dissociated. By choice. By
Yeah.
choice, I dissociated.
I've been there.
And it's that I think this has been the single most stressful point of my entire life. I think that was the most stressed out I've ever been in my whole life.
Yeah.
And I still executed, but I think how can I Alex Ramosi has a really interesting approach to trauma, which is it's true that you can go through really difficult situations and be beaten into submission in any form or fashion that you want. And you can call it trauma and then let it control you, or you can call it trauma and then try to better yourself for it, right?
Mhm.
And so every time I tell this story, I feel a small portion of the stress that I felt as I was going through it. And I feel a small portion of how unhappy I was when it was happening. But I don't think about it and then think about how shitty it was or how sorry it is that it happened or that I never want to go through it again. What I'm thinking is, okay, if I have to go through that again tomorrow, how can I improve? Right. So when I had to go down and fix the Camaro 2 days ago, I was basically faced with the same situation, which is I'm going to drive down to Miami in a Kia, which might not make it back, to fix a Camaro, which might not make it back. So if I'm going to go through the same exact, because if the heater hose didn't work, I was prepared to limp the Camaro back and stop every 3 minutes for 3 hours to get it home. And my my strategy was how do I make this more tolerable? How do I make it through without feeling the same amount of stress, right? And so I have a quote that I have followed, which is under pressure, you will always go back to your habit. So you've got to have habits, rituals, and routines that serve you. And so Thursday was possible because I have physical fitness and I have grit and I have, there's pre-existing conditions, right? Which was I was not prepared at all, right?
Yeah.
And Friday, the day after, was more manageable because I slept 6 hours, which is an improvement on 3.5. I accomplished an open house, which always boosts my serotonin or serotonin, the happy one?
Dopamine.
Dopamine makes me happy. And it was a huge improvement, right? Um, Saturday, the day after, was worlds better because I slept 8 hours and I ate regularly, and it was a huge, massive improvement. So the lesson that I took out of that was for sleep, 8 hours should be standard, 6 hours should be a minimum. If you're going into something important the next day, it cannot be less than 6 hours. It cannot be another 3.5 hours, right? Um, and I need to take meal prep more seriously because I work less efficiently on lower amounts of food. So although I was still able to call the day I bought the car a success, it was taxing. And so
Yeah.
the lesson that I learned is just to make sure that I'm following my physical fitness, food, and sleep, my core three, better than I have in the past, especially when you're coming up on important days.
Yeah.
And that's, I was a victim of circumstance in that Grace's flight was delayed. I had to go get her, and I wanted to beat the end of June crowd. I think if I were to do it again, knowing that I'm going to be doing a major purchase that's potentially on the other side of the state in a few days, I would have slept more Monday, Tuesday night going into Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because what I've noticed is being at work as much as I have has really taken a massive hindrance on my general ability to like manage myself.
Yeah.
Because I that environment, like, I honestly, I really try to fucking show up there every single day, and I'm like, "I'm gonna have a good day today."
Mm.
And within 15 minutes, some bullshit from a coworker or a job and it just gets thrown at me, and then it's thrown at me for the next 11 and a half hours or
Mhm.
12 hours, and I'm like, "Fuck, this sucks." And then I go home and I'm like, "You know what? Tomorrow will be a better day." And like, that pattern of, like, trying to make it a good day, and then for, like, 6 weeks, it just being, like, not even the same, but, like, a decline, worse and worse, like, every day, just some new shit happens, and some new shit hits the fan, and, like, someone doesn't write this paper properly, and then the next day, they miss 2 things on the paper, and then the next day, they miss 3 things on the paper we have to work, and it's, like, all this shit, like, that process has taken such a I've noticed it's taken such a hindrance on my ability to, like, just generally, like, manage myself even at home, like, just, like, the smallest shit will start to bother me,
Mm.
and it's just, like, it just turns my world upside down, and it's, like, I realize, like, in the times where I've had incredible stress, but it was within my managerial bubble, I've developed a good framework to work in it, but when I introduce external shit that I have to deal with that I absolutely despise, that
Mhm.
feels never ending, that has a really big disruption on my ability to manage, like, the shit that just generally goes on in my life because shit goes wrong. And, like, that breaking that connection or learning how to manage those two sides is something that I've realized over the past, like, month I haven't been able to connect well.
Mhm.
And so it's like that's something that I'm actively starting to focus on a little bit, and it's like a recent development for me, so I haven't really, like, built any sort of framework with it, but, like, disconnecting that, trouble versus, like, the trouble I face just in my life generally, and, like, making those 2 bubbles separate is something that I'm struggling with right now that I'm working on, I guess could tie into a lesson that I'm learning right now.
I think that not having to go like, the problem what I like about work at Northrop is that the work stays there. Like, I can't talk about it at home,
Mhm.
right? So, when I leave the facility, that's it. I don't have to think about it anymore
Yeah.
until I get in the next day. But when you start having to work weird hours or more hours or Saturdays, work starts to come home with you and then
Or you
creep
get
into.
called in on a 12-hour shift Saturday afternoon.
Right. It starts to creep into the rest of your life. So then it's like when you wake up in the morning, it's not, okay, what personal stuff do I have to deal with today? It's, I have to deal with personal stuff today. And also maybe I have to go to work. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that is challenging.
It's, and I wouldn't mind it if work was tolerable.
Hmm.
It's just like, and, like, luckily this overtime period has been good for the paychecks. So it's helped me out on that side of things. But, I think learning to really separate out the bubble of work and my personal bubble of shit is something that I need to focus on doing a little bit better just because I've seen that creep in. And so I'll maybe think about this week how I can kind of try to separate those two out more effectively to help because I have good managerial skills for, like, my dealing with my own personal shit when it's just my personal shit.
Right.
Like, I used to really just struggle with that, and I've gotten pretty good at that, but as soon as I introduce, like, the hell of work into it, it just really topples over what I've worked on in my personal sphere, and so I think I gotta learn how to develop a framework for how to deal with work and develop and figure out how I don't let that framework or lack thereof influence the framework that I built for my personal dealings, I
So
guess.
this is like when you're at work, you're like, fuck this shit. I hate everything. And then you get home and then you still feel like, fuck this shit. I hate everything, even though you shouldn't because you're not at work anymore.
It's just, like, it's so draining to be at work that it breaks down my capacity to, like, it breaks down my ability to follow the framework that I've built to deal with home problems.
Got it.
Because I have so little framework for how to deal with the bullshit at work that to manage through it and get through the day without just walking off the job is incredibly challenging, and it depletes me so much that by the time I get home and I have to deal with other life shit, I have nothing left in order to get me through that.
Yeah.
And so I think that managing the work shit better will allow me to continue managing my personal life like I used to a little bit better. And kind of finding that I think is something that I'm actually learning or working on.
It's funny because most people would try to call that a work-life balance, but it's actually a
Work
like
balance.
it's like an office work and personal work balance. Where
Yeah.
it's effectively like, how do you use your life to water down your work, and how do you not let the stress from your work into your life? Like most people
Mhm.
consider work-life balance to be exactly that, using one to make the other more tolerable and back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it's difficult when work sucks ass so much that it creeps into your life.
Yeah, it's like with the laptop shit, like, I think that if I had been working normal 40-hour weeks, that wouldn't have fucking stressed me out as much as it did. But,
Yeah.
like, having that waking up to that fucking laptop being broken and then blowing up my AC gauges was, like, a shit ass 15 minutes after, like, a 65-hour week at work,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
And what also pissed me off was like that expense right there. I was just coming off that week and I was like, man, this is so awesome. I'm going to save a bunch of money because of these big paychecks. And it's like $1,500. Go bam.
Yeah, and nothing for your laptop. Yeah, $850 for the Kia.
Right. Right. Exactly.
But
And it
it's
was
it's
like,
the same feeling where it's like, "Oh, I've had, like, the worst week I think I've ever had, and then this Indian guy wants to tell me that I didn't fill out a form properly." You don't know what you're talking about.
right.
Yeah, it's
Right.
exactly that
And it
feeling,
was like,
except yeah, with the laptop, you didn't have A&M Auto Salvage to come get the car for you. It's like you have to go.
yeah. And I just don't think it would have bugged me as much if my work week hadn't been so hell because the work weeks that I've been having just drain me mentally being there. And I think it's just because of like the collective IQ of the shit that I deal with is a single digit at work. And it's just like dealing with that aspect of it and trying to disconnect myself from it, yet also like be a team player. Like it's really hard to disconnect yourself from the project when you have to run the project.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like that balance is tough.
Yeah.
And so it's like dealing with that is extremely draining.
Right.
And I think that I'm really thankful to be back on a regular schedule for so many reasons. But I'm honestly really excited for next weekend's update because I think I'll have a bunch of cool stuff.
Mhm.
Just because I'm like, and now I'm on this high of like, oh my god, I have like normal time back. And it's like that. It's like soup. Like I'm looking at this week. Whereas I'd normally look at a work week before. So I'm kind of thankful for this period of work for this reason. But it's like I would have normally looked at the week ahead of me and be like, fuck, I have to go to work for 5 days. But now I look at the week ahead of me and I'm like, A, oh my God, I only have to work 5 days. And B, I only have to work 8 hours each day. It's like, oh my God, this is so sick. Like I'm excited.
Yeah.
And so like I'm thankful for that aspect of it. And I think that's important. But I'm super pumped for this weekend update. Because I mean, like the business update that I had today, like this was a 2-day accumulation of work,
Right.
and it's like I'm super pumped to have like a full week. I can like work on my shit and like develop stuff. Like I'm super pumped.
Yeah.
I'm even excited talking about it. I'm happy.
I've had the same kind of framing where it's like, if I have to do something that I don't wanna do, well, okay, at least it's not fucking midnight in Miami and you haven't eaten or drank or
Right,
anything, and you
yeah.
don't have to fucking get your tomorrow home. Like,
Right.
every morning that I wake up and have to do something that I don't wanna do, I do it with a smile because I'm like, dude, it has been so much worse, and I
Yeah.
don't have to do
It's
that
not
right
living
now."
hell.
Yeah, exactly, right? And that's powerful framing, I think,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Cool.
very cool. I mean, that's all I had. I
Awesome.
don't know what
Awesome.
you got to.
Fucking most of it was my life update, so I'm I'm good to go. So for my dialogue quote today, um, I couldn't think of anything that like fit the bill particularly well. But I've got two, and they both relate to the the Miami car experience.
Mhm.
So I had just stopped to fill up the car, and we got back on the road again immediately into standstill traffic, and we were going uphill. It was an uphill right-hand corner, and there was solid red traffic for like 10 minutes. And I had just had to hang up the phone on Grace because our phones are dying. And I was like, fuck, I don't know what to do. And I started thinking about contingencies like, okay, I could run out of water before we get there. And like, am I going to have to leave the car here? Am I going to have to get into Lexus and then drive to get water and then come back? What am I going to do? What's the deal? I'm all fucking, I don't know what to do. And as we crested that corner going really slowly, I had a realization that I could turn the car off and then just use the gravity of going down that hill to get me through all the rest of the traffic. And so I was like, oh, it's like the smallest win, but it's all I needed to just like hang on to that like pinhole of light at the end of the tunnel
Yeah.
and get through it. And uh that's there's a quote from my buddy Zach Judge. We rode together in college, and one of the races that we were doing, it was like the top race of our season. And we were in the last 300 meters of the race, and the boat we were battling for caught a crab, so they like slowed down for a second. And they're a way faster boat. Like they should have wiped the floor with us, but they made a mistake. And Zach just turned around to me and he goes, "Capitalize!" And like we fucking booked it, right? And we ended up beating them that race. But like I felt in that moment when I realized I could steer the car with the power off going downhill, I was like, capitalize. Take this one tiny positive and then just like let it carry you through the next hour of bullshit.
Yeah.
And that was really helpful for me. And then the next quote that I thought of while we were talking is the Joe Rogan quote. And I haven't seen the episode when he talks about this, but I've seen it clipped everywhere. But he says, "I want to see what you can do when you're tired. Like, I don't want to see you at your best. I want to see you at your absolute worst. And then I want to see what you can do." And that's what I was thinking about while I was going through that Miami thing. Cause I was like, what can I do when I'm tired? And I was like, holy fuck, dude. Like I feel like I'm barely making it, but I'm gonna make it.
Yeah.
Um,
That's kind of how I feel today. It's like normally probably, I'm pretty tired today, and probably normally I'd, crash out or whatever, something like that. But today I'm like, man, I'm pushing through because I'm just like so excited to have my time back, and I'm like, I'm just gonna do everything I possibly can for as long as I can and enjoy this time to work.
Yeah.
Funny enough,
Yeah.
but
it's like how much it's so easy today to just go lay in bed and watch TikTok and go to sleep and like
yeah,
relax and recover. But at the end of all this bullshit in Miami, I still had a 3-hour drive home to do.
yeah,
And the next day I still had to organize the sale of the Kia and figure out what car part I needed for the Camaro and figure out how I'm gonna get the cool tools down
yeah,
there. Like I still had more to do, but overcoming dropping the Camaro off, I was like, okay, I can do these things. So if I can do all that and then drive home and deal with all that shit the next day, and I'm well rested and well fed today, I'm doing myself a disservice by not going and doing more work,
hmm
right? By not pushing a little bit harder. And so I think it's just for me at least, it was a powerful reframe into how much I can actually do with how little energy and sleep I've had.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
that's all I got.
That's all I got too. Good podcast. Well, happy July 4th. So, a little bit late, but hope you had a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next time.